This place from I like the little thing around your navel, baby. Let's be good, what you gon' need? Sway eyes on me. Let's be good, what you gon' need? Sway eyes on me. Yeah, that is fine. You a bad little bitch. Got you spinning like Rihanna, but you ain't a savage.
Right, let's get straight into this. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys see me? Let me get a little 777 in the old chat. If you guys can. Where's the chat? I've lost the chat. Where are we? What's going on, boys? What's going on, Tom? What's good, Priyesh? What's good, Alex? Let me start recording. That was good, boys. So we got a lot to actually speak about today. So first things first, obviously, tank top. Yeah, bro. I just finished the gym and yeah, time to shower. I can't even lie. To get straight on it. So we've got a musty one coming today, but more importantly, there's a lot to talk about because last week was a fucking banging week. Not one single losing day. Four trades. Four. Well, there was one loss, but four winning days. I'll show you the wins. I'll show you the losses. A lot of bangers, and I know we actually took a few trades on the call together. We took one on silver on Tuesday, and of course we took one on Thursday, which was the S&P 500. So, if you weren't on the call, yeah, you're playing yourself. But there was a lot of beautiful opportunities that came in the market across last week. Obviously, NFP dropped, did give us a lot of insight, and obviously we'll speak about why the market. Um, did what it did. It gave it a beautiful, beautiful reaction from the market. So, with no further ado, let's just get straight into everything. So, can we do that more often? I mean, bro, like it's not up to me if I can take a trade or not on the call. You know what I mean? Like it comes down to if the market gives an opportunity. Like if there's something to take there, I'll take it. But I can't go to the market and say, oh, I have to take a trade right now on the call. Otherwise, that's where you're just gonna get absolutely fucked up. We can't tell the market when it's time to trade, right? We let the market tell us when it's time to trade. And that's the whole point of, obviously our trading plan. So first thing, let's sort of catch up with the fundamentals. And then we'll pretty much take it from there. So in terms of last week's or you can yeah, yeah, it's just you're probably gonna lose. You're right, you can take a trade on like every call, but you're probably gonna lose a lot if you're just forcing it. But yeah, so in terms of economics last week, it was pretty quiet coming into the start of last week. Economics, nothing was really crazy. We was pretty much just saying, was waiting for NFP data. In terms of NFP data, what did you guys sort of gather from NFP? Did you guys I hope you guys read into NFP data. What did you guys get from the NFP data that came out? Talk to me. What did you guys learn from NFP? Why did it create the moves the market moved? Bullish on what? On what? Why? Let's give full sentences. Remember, right, when you're doing your economics, this is your reason for your direction, right? This is your explanations. And as a trader, it's your job to be like a lawyer, right? And you have to build a case. So when, for example, you're going to the markets and you're doing your analysis, you know, a lawyer can't just claim someone's guilty with one word or one sentence, We need evidence. We need to be able to build cases. And like the same way I'll sit on a call and explain all this shit to you guys is the same sort of stuff I'm doing when I'm trading individually, right? I'm building narratives, I'm building out cases. And I think that's why a lot of people don't really get success because they just don't take it seriously enough to spend the time researching, educating themselves. Remember, there's four pillars: psychology, technicals, economics, and reflection. And if you're not dividing up your time into each of these areas and you're only trying to enter trades, that's why you're probably getting fucked. But it was bullish lowest since a lot of time. But what was lowest? What do you mean lowest? What was strong labor market reducing the chance to lower an interest rate? Very good. So pretty much that, man. That's true. So the labor market, right, came out a lot more stronger. Right, we saw average hourly earnings increase. Right, the non-farm employment change was nice and strong, and the unemployment rate stayed steady. So I mean, why does it get revised? I wouldn't say it always gets revised. I mean, any data can get revised. It just comes down to if they get more data, pretty much, bro. That's what it really comes down to. It's just like if you're learning something and you get new information, you're not just gonna stick and marry that old narrative, right? You're gonna update the information. So obviously, yes, NFP did come out a lot stronger than expected. More jobs created, right? Labor market remains healthy, and the economy isn't necessarily slowing as much as expected. So why did this create, a massive sell-off on Euro USD, and why did it create a massive rally on the dollar? Well, it created that massive move for a few reasons. One, because we said it was bullish. No, I'm joking. Well, obviously, it was bullish last week on the dollar. But specifically, what happened is a lot of money flooded into the bond market. Right. And if you don't know what the bond market is, this is what drives the US dollar. Right. When I say drives, this is the thing that really sets that market direction because people are not buying US dollars, right? They're buying government bonds. And a bond is something you can get from the government, which gives you a guaranteed return on investment. So when we see, like, for example, the 3 month, 6 month, 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, 10 year, 20 year, 30 year, these are all like something you can buy from the government and it has a guaranteed return on investment for that period of time. And the point is, when the labor market's stronger, this makes the central bank start to change their monetary policy, right? And it's the central bank's monetary policy which is going to directly influence whether the bond market goes up or down. And when the bond market goes up or down, that's directly going to influence the value of the DXY. That's directly going to influence the value of your stock market, your crypto market, right? Your currency markets as well. So paying attention to what's going on economically, paying attention to understanding these driving forces, this is what's really going to put you ahead of most people and ahead of the market direction. So we can see that the bond market was nice and strong, and that was what was reflected obviously in the dollar. Right, from a technical perspective, I mean, it wasn't really anything crazy. I mean, you can see we had a reaccumulation, price distributed, manipulated, gave a sign of strength. We came down into our demand, excuse me, came down into our demand zone that we spoke about on Thursday, and we accumulated nicely in it. And obviously, you had that NFP release, which just catalyzed the market in the direction it was really going to go. Because what we're seeing now is the Fed's monetary policy start to change. Obviously, nothing has officially changed yet. They haven't, when I say officially changed, they haven't changed their rates. They've been holding rates steady. But the narrative now from the Fed is that they're going to be holding higher rates for longer, right? Where the labor market's strong, there's no rush for the Fed to come in and cut rates anymore, right? Why was the Fed cutting rates? The Fed was cutting rates previously because the labor market collapsed, right? There was and we had that massive sell-off since after COVID, right? Everything crashed. So the Fed had to come in, stimulate the economy, and lower interest rates. Lowering interest rates reduces the cost of borrowing. So it's cheaper. People can afford to spend, afford to get access to finance and credit and loans. So therefore, people start spending more, right? When people start spending more, of course, you're going to see the economy, stock market rally. And if people are spending, what are they spending in? They're normally spending in the dollar. So the dollar decreases because they're selling. Think about it, right? If you physically have dollars and you're buying a good, you are doing a trade. You're selling your dollars, right? And you're buying the good, right? So when we're seeing a sort of and that was like, and obviously when we had those rate cuts, that was years ago, right? That was when years ago, right? That was primarily starting in like 2022, and obviously we went on that nice bear market. But now recently we've been starting to accumulate, right? And we've been starting to now start to show some lower time frame strength. And this lower time frame strength will continue if this narrative stays intact that the central bank wants to keep raising rates. And when there's a stronger labor market, there's no reason for the Fed to want to cut rates. Remember, the central bank changes interest rates for two reasons. What are the two things the central bank looks at before they change interest rates? Which bond is the most powerful? What do you mean powerful? They're all I mean, I wouldn't say one's more. I don't know what you mean by more powerful, bro. Like, define powerful because they're all. I mean, it comes down to personal preference, right? Because this is a 3 month contract, a 6 month contract, a year contract, 2 year, 5 year, 10 year, 20 year, 30 year. You sign a contract, you're locked in for that period of time. So that means if you buy this for 3 months, you're guaranteed this return on investment for 3 months. You get the 6 months, you're guaranteed this for 3.8 months. There's no escaping, right? You've signed it, you've locked in 1 year, 2 year. So in terms of more powerful, they're all none more powerful than the other. It just comes down to what you want, right? If you want a 30 year guaranteed 5%, for you that's more powerful. They all correlate, and pretty much the average of these is the value of the US dollar. So I wouldn't say there's one that's more like better or worse, just personal preference. But anyway, in terms of the central bank, right, the two things they look at, and it's important to know this because if you don't know what the central bank's doing, you don't know where the currency is going to go. But when you know what the central bank's doing, that's what helps you get that certainty with the market direction because you know that there's reasons for buyers or reasons for sellers to come into the market. Yeah, inflation and labor, exactly. So when it comes to inflation, right, and my amazing handwriting and labor, what do we know about inflation right now? There's not much craziness happening with inflation, right? Inflation is still kind of low, right? And obviously when inflation was going low, because inflation a few years ago was at like 9%, now it's cooled down quite a lot, around like, 2, 3%, right? So the central bank isn't cutting rates anymore because the labor market is healed, right? When we go back 2 to 3 years ago, right, 4 years ago, when the central bank was cutting rates, what was they doing? They was cutting rates because the labor market was weak and inflation was high. But now inflation is, I don't want to say super low because it's not their target, but inflation's low and labor's strong. So if we start to see inflation start to increase, if we start to see the labor market remain strong, I mean, this is very important because the labor market being strong means people are spending money. And when people spend money, that's what creates more inflation. Inflation comes from people spending money and the economy heating up. Because when people are spending lots and lots of money, what happens? Businesses raise their prices. And what is inflation? The cost of goods and services. So when people are spending lots of money, naturally businesses are doing better and better. So they're going to raise their prices. So as they raise their prices, that is literally what inflation is. So when you look at like, CPI, Consumer Price Index, when you're seeing that number go higher or lower, that means it's becoming cheaper or more expensive for you as the consumer, right? When you're looking at like PPI, producer inflation, so let's say, the people who made my iPhone, right? No, no Androids around here, right? When people who made the iPhone, no, it's okay if you have an Android. But when people who made the iPhone, if it cost them more money, the producers, right? Of course, naturally that can affect the consumers because if it costs more for Apple to make an iPhone, we're going to have to spend more. And then obviously from there you got PCE, which is personal consumption expenditure, which is like, all right, looking at the prices of consumers and producers, how much money are people actually spending? So to get a good gauge of inflation's high or low, we have to look at all of these. But this is the problem where people fuck up with their analysis because they just look at one number and say, "Oh my God, inflation's up, so I'm fucking bearish or bullish." No, right? When it comes to these, right, these are reports, right? Like for example, if I go on Forex Factory and we look at this week, all right, we've got CPI coming out tomorrow. Am I just going to be a spastic and just look at this number and based on this number say, oh my God, inflation's upward? No, because this is a report and there's different variations of these reports that come out. So the variations are you have year over year and month over month. Year over year, and this is for all of them, right? PCE, PPI. Sometimes like Forex Factory, like on this one, isn't showing the year over year. It's still going to come out. Just sometimes Forex Factory is a bit retarded. But month over month is comparing inflation today to where we was a month ago. And CPI year over year is comparing today to where we are a year ago. We then have core, which excludes energy and excludes certain things. And it's the same thing of month over month in CPI. So core is like more of a narrower scope, and non-core is more of like a more broad. So obviously it doesn't account for food and energy as well. So they remove that out because food and energy can take like because when it comes to normal CPI coming out compared to core, food and energy is normally around 25% of the total level of inflation. So the point is, you don't just blindly look at these numbers. Well, on the release day, if you click this little thing here, there will be a report that comes out, or you can just type in like, CPI year over year, And you can actually, why the hell is this in Thai? Let's change this to English. All right. And then you can come to the actual Bureau of Labor Statistics, right? And you can actually come to the PPI or CPI, whatever the release is. You can go to the PDF, and now you've got a long ass document that's going to show you everything what's going on with inflation. Now, again, this is where, like, this is what your work is. This is your job now. This is what you get paid to do. You get paid to interpret this data and build a bias behind this. But this is where some of you lot are lazy. Some of you lot just want to go to the chart and not do this real work. Like when it comes to institutions and bigger players, the people that actually move the markets, this is where their analysis starts. This is what analysts are paid to do. Now, of course, you can use AI, right? You can plug this into AI. You can use that to help you, but please just don't be the guy who just looks at one number come out and is like up, down, yes, no. Like I encourage you to read these reports because this is going to help you understand why you're bullish, why you're bearish, and actually understand why inflation's going higher or lower. Because there's been some times where, we've seen inflation the number jump up a little bit. But under the hood, when you actually dive into reports, the only reason that number jumped up was because of oil. Because obviously when the whole what's the word, Strait of Hamas shit was happening. So the point is to see like an official like straight bear market, because once you can understand all this data, it's going to help you understand if you're bullish or bearish on certain markets. So like for example, how it will affect the dollar, right, is you obviously can have the dollar be bullish or you can have the dollar be bearish. When the dollar's bullish, you're basically talking about rate hikes, right? Wait, let me do this in text, right? You talk about rate hikes, right? Whether they're putting interest rates up. And this is typically when you have a strong labor market and you have high levels of inflation, right? And again, high levels of inflation is all the different sectors and industries inside of those reports heating up. High level of inflation is not, oh, oil prices have jumped up. Now everything's fucking high. No, it's not how it works, right? You have to actually look under the hood and look at the data. So, like you can back test, for example, trends. Like if you go back to like 2020, right? We go back here, right? Let's say here when we saw that dollar sell off, or we saw this dollar rally, right? Why was the dollar rallying? Because inflation was rising, the labor market was cracking. So, because of those two things happening, the central bank raised their interest rates. That made the dollar and the bond market more attractive for foreign investment. So, people sold other markets and they bought the dollar. That's why when you go and look on, like, for example, indices, right? NASDAQ back in that same time period, right? It was around like 2021, 2022, right? We saw the NASDAQ distribute and sell off, right? Why? Because people was shorting, here, 2021, 2022. People were selling their risk assets and putting it into the safe haven, which is the world reserve currency, the dollar, because the central bank was raising rates, because inflation was going higher and the labor market was cracking. So when we was, for example, here and the dollar sold off, the central bank was cutting interest rates. Why was they cutting interest rates? Because inflation. Why? Let me ask you, chat. Let me ask you this: why did the central bank cut interest rates? But is the labor market as strong as the data is showing? People taking on more jobs to get by, boosting the numbers, but doesn't reflect a stronger labor market. I mean, bro, like I don't look at conspiracies, bro. I just look at the real data and apply price cycles to it. I'm not gonna go down that conspiracy theory route because conspiracy theories don't make you money. Like I'm not trying to be rude, but we can sit and think, oh, is it this? Is it that? But just look at the facts and look how the market responds to the data. Just keep it simple. Some people overthink shit, and that's why they don't make any money. For me, I have principles, and if my principles based on data that I can backtest, And if my data and my system comes out in this way, I'm not going to question it. I'm just going to take it. I don't care about being right. I don't care about thinking too much into it. I'm just going to follow it. That's the point of having a system, to save yourself time, energy, and money. So there are four pieces of data we need to look at. Well, inflation and labor and the monetary policy. So I guess you could call it three. And obviously they'll have their subsections. So, right now, when the dollar obviously was like this and interest rates were high, yes, the stock market was crashing. So yes, exactly. The Fed had to come in to save the economy, right? They had to come in to save the economy. Why? Because when interest rates got really high, the labor market cracks. Because when interest rates high and the dollar's expensive, businesses can't afford shit anymore. People can't afford shit. The business can't afford to pay people. They got to start cutting people off. People lose jobs. People don't have money, right? So paying attention to what the central bank's doing is going to give you that direction on the dollar. And based on what the dollar's doing, that's what will give you more insight into all your other markets. So, for example, back here again, there was raising interest rates. We saw the stock market collapse. Here, when the dollar was falling, we saw the stock market rally because money was exiting this dollar, exiting the bond market, and it was entering those risk assets. Does that make sense? So what we saw on Friday's NFP, right, is exactly pretty much a similar thing, right? We saw money exit the stock market, hence why it all fucking crashed, and crypto. But I mean, we've been bearish on crypto for the last fucking 6 months anyway. But we physically saw the transfer of wealth. We saw money exit the dollar and enter those risk assets. So in terms of like how I'm going to be moving forward, right? What I'm going to be paying attention to now is data that's coming out this week. I want to see what's going to happen with inflation. Because if we continue to see trends of inflation go higher and the labor markets stay strong, because when the labor market stays strong, that's normally what causes higher inflation. If we keep seeing higher levels of inflation, right, again, not just the fucking number, right, going into the reports and really seeing that prices are rising. If prices are rising across the board for everything, what the Fed will have to start to do is raise their interest rates. And when the Fed raises interest rates, that causes money to go into your dollar and bonds and out of your stock markets, like your US 30, your NASDAQ, your S&P 500, right? They would start to crash. And we saw a perfect example of that on Friday. Now, with economics, you can have a general bias, but you also have to align it with the technicals because yes, so economics are more long term, right? So you can be, for example, economics can be bearish, let's just say for the dollar, or let's say in this case bullish, right? Like economics can be bullish for the dollar, but you can still have a few days or weeks of a pullback. Does that make sense? So this is where you have to now use your Wyckoff price cycle in alignment to build that narrative. Because again, we're building the case. We're not just saying, oh my God, this data did this, so I'm instantly, selling every day. I have to know what the price cycle is doing. So when, for example, we'll get through some of those trade breakdowns, but obviously with Friday's price action, right, we had that reaccumulation, we confirmed it, market comes in, and NFP was just the excuse to send the market higher. So sort of bringing the economics forward now going into this week, I want to keep seeing what happens with inflation. If we do see inside of the reports that inflation continues trending up, right, that can lead the Fed to want to start raising rates. Now, we do have a central bank meeting next week. Now, I don't know if they're going to really raise rates. It's not my job to predict this, but we do have a new chairman. So I do want to see if he's going to be doing the speech. All right. I think it should be him with his new speech. We have to double check that. But I want to see what they're going to say in their speech, and I want to see what their sort of view on inflation is. Because if they're not really concerned about inflation, and well, if they're not concerned about inflation, and they say like, oh, the labor market's weak for whatever reason, which I doubt they would, but if they're not concerned about inflation, then I don't really think there's no reason for the dollar to necessarily rally I mean, it still can, respect the market cycle and continue higher. That's why you trade what you see. But the point is, if like the Fed are not concerned about inflation going up, right, there's no need for them to raise rates. But we want to look out for what the Fed say. And what the Fed going to say next week is going to give us those clues. So if the Fed next week start telling us, all right, we're worried about inflation, right? Labor market is really resilient and strong. That's bullish signs for the DXY and more bearish signs for risk assets. If you can combine the price cycle, because obviously with like risk assets like the stock market, like US 30, NASDAQ, S&P, there's other things you also have to look at. Like the dollar's pretty simple. You just focus on the monetary policy. You just focus on, what inflation's doing, what the labor market's doing, and what the central bank's doing. Pretty easy. But obviously, when it comes to indices, they're still easy, but they also have something called earnings reports, which will affect them. So normally earnings reports lag a little bit, but when earnings reports come out and if they're really positive, that can cause a lot of liquidity to enter them and cause more bullish price action, even if the central bank starts raising rates. So, like for example, when the central bank was raising rates before, right, it took the dollar, not the dollar, sorry. So like last time the central bank started raising rates was like around here, right? The Nasdaq still went through a couple months of bullish price action before selling off because earnings reports were still positive. It just took a little bit of time for them to play out. So for indices, that's where you also have to still pay attention to earnings, and earnings are mostly pretty strong still. So that's where now I have to combine like my bias with the price cycle as well. And I want them to both be in alignment. And if they're not in alignment, then there's not much for me to necessarily do to trade, if that makes sense. I don't know if anyone's got any other questions about the economic side of things. If not, I want to get into the trade recaps from last week, and we'll go through the trades we spoke about on the call. We'll go through the silver short, euro short, ES buys, and then the euro shorts on Friday. And then we'll get into the outlook and see if there's any trades that we can necessarily get into today. I already had a quick peep, so I don't think there's going to be much on currencies today, but maybe on US indices. We'll take a look. So I'll give you, anyone got any questions on any economics before we get through the trade breakdowns? Or are we pretty good on that? Cool. All right. So if we sort of go back until Tuesday's Zoom, so we was talking about shorts on silver, right? And I think when we did our call, we was roughly somewhere around here, roughly. I can't remember exactly where it was. But we was mentioning about shorts on silver, right? Why was we bearish on silver? So obviously from a technical standpoint, and the scanner also called a beautiful short as well. So we had this beautiful redistribution here. I'll come back to the scanner later. Right. We had a beautiful redistribution here. And then we was basically trying to see if this was going to be the UTAD of our of our lower time frame distribution in our supply zone. So why was I not looking at this as a reaccumulation on the lower time frame? Because of gold, right? So silver and gold, obviously they're gonna correlate, right? So when we was looking at gold, we could see that gold was in the midst of a giant redistribution, right? Again, why was this a redistro? Well, one, we're in a bearish market cycle, economics are bearish, and we had a beautiful in our UTAD, right? Beautiful volume absorption, and we started entering that lower time frame distribution. So we know our direction is bearish on this, but we wanted to see gold be our leader, right? So when we're using correlating assets, we wanted to see. So when we talk about correlating assets, it's two markets that move similarly. So we wanted to see who's leading and who's lagging. Because when we talk about leading and lagging, if we see something like gold, so we come into gold, right, and we start seeing gold sell off, right, which we can see here, we can see this weakness on gold. This gives us an indication that silver will start to sell off. So we started to see gold sell off, and also what did we see on silver? We, daily cycle swept our Asia high, we entered a lower time frame distribution, and then we entered a redistribution. And at the same time, we open up gold. We see gold selling off, right? We see gold providing more weakness. Distribution, booth, redistribution, and showing that weakness. So seeing that weakness coming on gold, that's what gives us confidence to short on silver. And of course, where was bearish, we go on the trade radar, we turn it from buys to sells, and then we just wait for our scanner to call shorts. Now the scanner called a short here. I called it on the UTAD. For me, I didn't want to take this entry. If I'm being real, I wasn't comfortable with this entry here. No, I don't think gold had enough weakness at this exact time, if I remember correctly. No, it didn't. I didn't really have enough weakness on gold for me to take it. If we look at gold, still could have did something like that, or still had time to have weakness basically. And remember, when we use these scanners or when we use any sort of trading, we have to always keep our focus on the laws of Wyckoff. Remember the three laws of Wyckoff. Chat. What are the three laws of Wyckoff? Who can tell me? Who can tell me what are the three laws of Wyckoff? And I can tell you, if you lose any trades, it's because you violated these laws. These are the laws of Wyckoff. Just like you violate the law of the universe, bad shit happens to you. You violate the law of love, you become single. You violate the law of the land, you go to jail. All right? Bro said, see, est. All right. No, so cause and right, exactly. So supply and demand is the first law, right? Nah, I'm joking. I know you know what they are. Right, supply and demand. Right, that's our price cycles. So we know if supply is in control, we're going to see the market distribute and redistribute and print this cycle here. Right, obviously we're not retards. We don't look at lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. We look at schematics, right, where effort has gone in. So when the supply is in control, you'll see distros, redistributions, right? Obviously, when demand's in control, you'll see accums and reaccumulations. So when obviously I'm at this point, I'm still in the bullish market cycle. Reaccum, distro. Oh, but Kieran, there's maybe a redistro here. Right. Next law. The law of cause and effect. It's what have your schematics done? What did they do? So for example, if I see a distro and a redistro, I wouldn't call that a redistro just yet, but let's just entertain it for now. If buyers are still in control of the market from a prior reaccumulation, demand's still in control. So there's nothing I can do. But when we start to see sellers invalidate demand, all right, in alignment with our daily cycle, Frankfurt sweep, distro, redistro should be the high of the day, and New York should continue you if all your Wyckoff laws are correct. So now the third law we need is the law of effort and result. All right? Because when we see these schematics and we're now going to take a trade, the purpose of seeing a schematic is that an institution is filling orders. That's the whole point of why we look for these. So if I'm going to take a trade when a schematic builds, we just wait for a schematic to build, wait for it to retest, and then we want to see a lot of effort come in the market, which is sell orders to take our trade, because obviously what an institution will do, they'll build out a schematic, split their orders up, manipulate the market, put in their final orders, mitigate, close out any losing orders because they have to buy before they sell. All right, obviously, we've gone through this in a lot of detail. If you have any questions on that, please ask. But we will now want to, when it comes back to mitigate, we now want to see effort come in the market to sell off. And if there's no effort, the trade's not going to work out and it's going to lose. So this is obviously what our scanner does. It looks for that effort. So when, for example, we see the market come up and mitigate, and again, this is what gives you a higher win rate. Like you can trade manually all you want and you're still going to be successful, right? But my win rate has fucking boosted since I've started using this scanner because you get that extra confirmation and that extra certainty. Because here now, when we've seen the market the scanner calls a signal, this is based on data that there's a shit ton of effort coming into the market. So now when I've seen there's absorption, a shit ton of sell orders coming in, that gives you, obviously, they can still lose, bro. You're not going to have a 100% win rate. but that gives you higher probable that this short's going to play out. So now when she comes back to redistribute and mitigate, you obviously, you're getting a much more higher probable entry. And then from there, so that was the M1. And then from there, obviously, she had a small little mitigation. And I see a few of you guys end up playing the redistro when she came back off this. I think she come back to this 1580 here. And then that was pretty much all she wrote on Tuesday. And obviously, you can see she was just absolutely flying. And again, like, I'll show you some logic. Obviously, that's logic when the scanner plays out, right? Because, you're playing a clear market cycle, you're applying logic. Obviously, in an example here, all right, it's going to lose. Why is it going to lose? It's calling a short. All right, cool. Maybe effort's coming in. This market just opened. But if I don't have the laws of Wyckoff in alignment, I'm in a fucking uptrend. Why am I going to short? I'm not going to short an uptrend. But here, right, when we go back to, some of our entries, we know we've got all of our laws in alignment, right? Law of supply and demand, law of cause and effect, law of effort and result. That is enough to take a trade. You want your trading plan, have a POI, wait for it to mitigate, play a lower time frame. We have a higher time frame POI. This is our lower time frame market cycle, distro, redistro, you know? So that was silver. And obviously if we check gold, oops, if we check gold at the same time, gold was leading. You can see gold selling off nicely, breaking market cycle. And, that's what, confirmed, the silver short. And obviously you can see we play it out from there. She ends up just absolutely, absolutely dying from there. Just end the replay and go back to where that area was. That was up there. And since then, she dropped an absolute fucking shit ton. Silver dropped over 13%, since that short. So, if you were swinging, obviously, if you're scalping on like certain prop firms, you have to close out at market close. So even if you're still trading the prop firm, market closes around 9 p.m. UK time. So you still had, oops, lost it. You still had a pretty good drop to get in. And obviously, if you're swing trading this, yeah, you would have held that and you would have been absolutely laughing. So I don't know if anyone's got any questions on this trade, but it's pretty simple. Do you pay for DXY futures? You can use both, bro. You can use both. I don't really find the DXY futures that much valuable, to be honest. I'll just switch between them. And you've got Euro futures, it's pretty much the same thing. So that was silver on Tuesday, right? Tuesday, 2nd of June, entries around 2 p.m. UK time, and then around like 2:46 UK time. And obviously they gave monster risk rewards from there. Now, the next trade we took was Euro USD on Wednesday, the day after. And again, I did not have one losing day last week. Absolutely stupendous. So when we go on Euro USD, beautiful, beautiful setup. We'll come back to the scanner in a moment. So obviously where we was on Euro USD, all starts off with a dollar. All right, let's just sort of replay this a little bit. So while we was on the dollar, right? If you remember on our Tuesday Zoom call, we on Tuesday on the dollar was like, all right, guys, dollar's not super clear. I'm not going to trade Euro USD on Tuesday. Obviously, I think silver was the only thing was looking at. We pretty much said on Tuesday, if it does start to clear above these highs, we said at that point, the probabilities are now going to be that we're extremely bullish and we're not going to be selling off, right? And we're going to then go and crack, where is it? The high of the distribution. If we zoom out, all right, obviously it was in a potential distribution, but why am I selling? Sorry, why am I buying a distribution? Because what did it do? Nothing. All right, we're still in a higher time frame uptrend. We came into demand, we accumulated. It was either that distro brings us to demand to continue, or it reaccumulates to continue. Because obviously we're bullish on dollar, so we're not considering too many shorts. So we said on the day, of course, we're kind of in supply, it's kind of accumulation. We're not quite in demand. So on Tuesday, we wasn't going to trade. We said keep an eye. If it does start to crack this high from Monday, at that point, we're going to solidify our bullish narrative and then start to play the lower time frame market cycle up towards these highs. Otherwise, without that break, there's nothing else for me to buy because we're reacting from supply and it could have just rolled over, come into demand and then continued higher. So on Tuesday, there was nothing to do until Wednesday. During London, we end up cracking this high and now confirming lower time frame market cycle, right? And seeing our accumulation and now our reaccumulation. So when I was looking at the dollar, Euro USD, we now know that Euro USD is pretty much the opposite. And now we're going to be confirming, let's just delete some of these markups, right? And now, once we broke this, that is now showing us weakness for us to play this redistribution. Manipulated highs, right? Nice amount of volume in the UTAD, and now playing that lower time frame market cycle down. Obviously, if this thing was going to be bullish, it should have just swept those lows, reaccumulated, and then continued going higher. So, when we saw the market break, that Monday, where is it? Yeah, here, that Monday low, that's what confirmed this new redistro. So at that point, it was either, we come back up to the 50% and distribute and to play the shorts and wait for that effort coming in, or we can maybe see how it reacts out of this little lower time frame market cycle, right? Because you can see there's also another lower time frame redistribution here. And obviously playing time and price, we're in London, so London gives highs and lows of the days and New York gives continuations. So if it was going to come up to this like 50 or 80, it had to break this lower time frame supply here. And without it breaking this lower time frame supply here, there's nothing I'm going to do to take a trade. Obviously, if it distributes near, I'll take a short from here. If it breaks it, waiting for it to come up here to distribute, and a lot of effort to enter the market for me to take another trade. So when she came into this area, we did then see, right, our scanner call a beautiful absorption. Right? And for me, absorption entries are always my best, my favorite, because obviously these are more based on volume. And we saw, so what's absorption? It's a shit ton of fucking sell orders coming into the market. So when we've got a supply zone, right, and we see a shit ton of sell orders come into the market, what are we going to do? We're going to take a trade. So for me, when the scanner called the entry, the risk to reward wasn't worth it for me. If you look on the M5, it calls the entry here, stop loss above that high. For me, it wasn't worth it. So what I was using this as, and I'll show you how I played it, is I waited for the M1 to give me another signal. So if we sort of go into here, right, and sometimes you have to change the deviation of your stop loss as well with the scanner. So it all comes down to because obviously this number here, this just changes how close the stop loss is to the actual high. For me, I always put my stop loss above the high of the candle. So for example here, you see it calls the entry over here. And obviously if you have your settings like really tight, sometimes you might get kind of tagged out. But if you look where I actually place my stop loss, for me, this was the high volume area, if you remember on the M5. All right, if we go to the M5, this was that high volume coming in. So for me, if this wick, right, is where all the sell orders are coming into the market from, because that's what your absorption signals are, I don't want price to be able to break above that. So when I had my M1 signal here, a market executed with my stop loss above the high of the M5 absorption. And, I just kept it simple. I just targeted the lows. And obviously you can see it ends up coming down, smashing the targets, gave me a nice 1 to 5, and that was pretty much it. I mean, she did rally. I think did she go lower from there? I think she might have. But for me, that's enough. I'm not going to be greedy. A quick trade like that in the space of 30 minutes, I'm not going to complain. And at this point, you hit TP again, I'm done. Like I'm not going to keep trading. No, absorption is what the scanner is calling for you, bro. So you refine the scanner, you refine the scanner's original entry? Yeah, basically, bro. Yeah. 'Cause just because, like, not to say this wasn't valid, here, but if we go back, like the risk reward wasn't worth it. And again, this is where just understanding how the scanner works, because like when you go into the settings, like the TPs and stuff, are just fixed targets, like a fixed 1 to 2, a fixed 1 to 5, or a fixed 1 to 10. Like I don't take my targets based on fixed, what's the word? Fixed levels. I target the lower my leg. That's my main target for the trade. So even if the M5's calling, where is it? Here, M5's calling that to go, if I'm taking that entry there, I'm not taking that, a 1 to 1. Like, bro, I'd rather work at fucking, McDonald's for that. You know what I mean? You're not going to be profitable with 1 to 1s. Um, so in this case, like, all right, I'm not going to take that. If I see any more like redistributions, or let's say a lower time frame absorption signal, then I'll take that. And then a little bit of time passed, and then the M1 ends up calling it again up here. So after the M5 called it around here, about like an hour later, just pre-New York, yeah, the M1 called it. Were Asia highs swept on that trade? Nope. No. You don't need Asia highs to be swept to take a trade. You need to follow the market cycle. And a lot of people, like, they learn like one concept and like, oh my God, Asia highs must be swept. No. Like nowhere in the trading handbook does it says that. Everything comes to logic, right? Like, for example, if I am like, let's say, I'm here, right? I'm in a redistribution with cause and effect. Like I care, and absorption. I care more about that than a fucking Asia high, you know? Like Asia, But again, like if we're going into logic now, and like let's say, like where are we? Like let's just pretend it's gonna be kind of hard to sort of do this, but let's just pretend like, this is my Asia range. And then, for example, now I got a Frankfurt sweep. Yeah, that's more confluence. But the price action and the orders being filled is more important than the range of Asia. Can I see how the 15-minute looked at that time? Yeah, three-dimensional thinking, not 2D. A lot of people that pattern trade, they don't apply logic. They're not building a case. Even here, you look at the candles, right? We had what, four bearish down candles, and we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 up candles. The momentum's clear to the downside. You have your redistribution, it has cause and effect because it's invalidated demand. Supply and demand, we're in a clear bearish market cycle, and obviously, like, when I'm here, I'm not setting a limit order of any of this shit because I don't have all three laws of Wyckoff. I have, yes, supply and demand, bearish market cycle. Like this signal here during London, this scanner signal here. Am I going to take this trade here? No. Why not? Because I don't have a POI. POI is up here. All right. So I'm not going to take that fucking signal there. I'm not in my laws of Wyckoff. Where am I? If I'm not in a POI, I'm not inside that supply zone, I'm not going to take the trade. But let's say, later on, when she confirms our redistribution, right? Cause and effect, what did your sellers do? They invalidated demand. They invalidated demand. Oops. And invalidated demand a little bit later, where it comes up. All right, there we go. We invalidate that demand to the left. Now, when we've got two laws of Wyckoff, supply and demand, cause and effect, the final piece of the puzzle is now effort and result, which is obviously what a scanner does. Or you can apply all our really advanced lower time frame validation criteria. But if I'm going to be real with you, it's not easy. That's a lot harder. But it can be done. But again, for me, like this is just what puts the cherry on the cake. You're sitting here. You set your alerts on multiple time frames, and your M5 calls it perfect. Now you just wait for. I mean, I would have taken it if the risk reward was better, but obviously to my main target at the low, I didn't take that. So again, it was just waiting now, like going to a lower time frame. Am I going to get an M1 signal? And later on, we do get the M1 signal, or am I going to see any sort of redistros? So like, if it would have done that, I would have played into there if my scanner calls me something. But obviously, this is what removes all that chart time because I ain't got to stare at the chart. Boom, scanner goes off, open the trade. All right, bet, market execute. Let's say shit, even at this time, market execute. Remember you had the M5 absorption, all those sell orders coming in from the volume, and then boom, you take your trade. Obviously, I had a 1 to 5. That's where I got filled. That's it. You just take the trade. So like all I'm doing, when I'm trading, like is this. I go to the market, market cycle, bet, go to my scanner, and this is my life is so much fucking easier now. Choose seller buys. I mean, I just keep all these on. It doesn't really fucking matter. I just turn off custom windows because I know what session I'm going to trade. Like I'm only going to trade currencies London or New York or US indices during New York. I mean, um, you can put these on if you want. Yeah, and then. I think I turn off the stat table. I really think we probably did ourselves a disservice putting this on. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can really refine the stat table if you are going to take absolutely everything from the stat table. But again, I don't take every if I trade the scanner calls, because not every trade has all the laws of Wyckoff in alignment. So if you can apply a bit of thinking, your life is going to be so much fucking easier with this, and you'll be winning so many more trades. But if you're just being a spastic and having no like emotional or self-control, and just scanner gives me a signal, so I just buy it and blindly, then bro, like you're a retard and you deserve to lose. If I'm being real, you know? Um, yeah. When I look for buy or sells, if you want it, yeah, so just go to the just go here, bro, and you can get should be able to go here. There's a free trial for it. You can use it. What are the fib settings? I'll show you, bro. Just here. Yeah, never go full retard. Never go full retard. And like this scanner is just gonna show like how much of a retard you are because this makes your life super easy. Like it comes to your zone, wait for a scanner signal. And and if you're still getting both signals, it's because you haven't set the alerts right. So you change it for cells, then come up here and then add the alert. That's it. Wait, I'm not even at the chart. I got my POI done. Let's go 2 minutes on the chart, mark up a POI, wait for the signal. La di da di da. All right, where is it? Oh, it's in my zone. Bet. Set my signal. Or have your alert here so you get notified when it's in your zone. All right, bet. Now I'm extra gonna be on my phone or if I'm at work. Obviously, I don't work, but like if you're at work, all right, make sure run to the toilet. I've got my alert on. Now I'm just gonna be a bit more mindful if that scanner calls a trade. Waiting, waiting, waiting. Scanner calls a trade. It's in your zone. Take it. That's it. Don't think too much. That's it. It's just not that hard. Yeah. So you got you. So when if we're setting alerts on it, and I'll show you, we've got more trades to go through, and then we'll get into the outlook and see what trades we can take today. But like, let's say now, right, I'm on Euro USD and I want to sell it, right? I mean, I'm not going to sell Euro USD today. Well, we'll talk about it later. But I'll come here, settings, sales. Make sure my settings are how I want. I like to go style and turn off this input one because otherwise it makes it really long. I'm going to do a whole new course as well. Like we hit 10K subs on YouTube, so I'm going to do another 10K subscriber boot camp. We've got a lot more shit coming. But yeah, you just come up here, add alert, and now same as chart. So I got the alert on the 5 minute chart, create. If I want it on and I have it on multiple time frames, like the 5 minute, maybe the 3 minute. Like here, look, it's calling a 3 minute sell. Why am I going to take that? I'm not. I'm in a fucking uptrend from here. You know what I mean? So that you have to think a little bit, you know? Yeah. And how to remove it, you just come up here to alerts, and you go to, well, alerts and just scroll down and you'll see it. So like, for example, here, the 5 minute ones, just press delete and then delete it. So normally what I do after my trading session, I delete all the alerts. Um, and then like fresh, like on a fresh day now, obviously I'm not going to trade Euro USD, but as an example, let's say I open like Nasdaq, all right? Again, this is not an official analysis just yet, right? But let's say I'm like, all right, I'm bullish on Nasdaq. Again, this is not an official analysis. We're going to do that in a minute, all right? So hold your horses, Linda. Linda, hold them back, right? We come into buys. Let's say I'm bullish. Cool. Now I turn off the fucking scanner. Fuck the scanner, all right? Now I build my analysis. All right, so potential reaccumulation. All right, wait for it to break, wait for it to come to the zone. I'll have my notifications on now, right? But I'm not going to take these entries here because it's not done what I wanted. I want it to break up, come back down to my POI. Then once it comes in, I need the scanner to call me a trade in here. Like, on like a different, that could be a 5 minute, 3 minute, 1 minute, doesn't matter. But I need it to call it when it does that and comes and retests my POI. You do that, your win rate is going to be fucking phenomenal. That's literally what we did with Euro USD. We've got another trade to go through, the ES trade, which we're going to break down now as well. But I hope that makes sense. You make it look easy. I mean, bro, it is easy, bro. Like, I'll be real with you, man. Like, I think a lot of people overcomplicate it. Like, like, come on, let's like, is it like, let's really deep this for a second. The hard part is just practicing and being and feeling a bit of uncomfortable because you don't get it straight away, and then just not being a man and just fucking shying away from it. If I'm being real, that's the hard part, right? A lot of people are just snowflakes, and when there's a bit of pressure, they want to shy away from that pressure. But you got to go towards it, and all you got to do is just go to the market, find your price cycle, right, and do that over and over and over again. When you're, and this is now where your groups come in your mentorship, right? You now follow the tasks you're being given. Oh no, I'm gonna do it my way. Fuck your way, bro. Your way don't work. You got to follow the blueprint you're on. And that's why some people don't achieve success despite a mentorship or despite a group, because they now stay doing the own thing that they want to do and they're not following advice. So if you could, it's easy if you follow your advice. For me, I can make it look easy because I followed my mentor's advice. And then when I did, I went and got feedback on my chart work. If you do that 10,000 times, and I guarantee it'll be easy for you. If you've done it once or twice, of course it's going to be hard, bro. But it becomes easier the more you do it and the more you practice. So that when you go to the market and you're looking at your price cycles, you screenshot that, you mark them up, you send them to your groups, you send them to your mentors. And your mentor will give you feedback and give you homework based on that. I think the reason why it's hard is because people just haven't put in enough time. Like that's really it. Like for me, when I was early in my trading journey, did I think it was hard? Yeah. But why was it hard? Because I didn't put in enough work. Now, I've been doing this 10 years. Of course, it looks easy because I put in that much time. And the only difference between me and you is the experiences I've had, the information I've learned, and the amount of feedback and chart time I've got. That's it. So if you want it to be easy, what experiences do you need to recreate? Well, you need to get mentorship. You need to ask questions. You need to get feedback. You need to go and meet your mentors in real life. I paid someone over 10 grand to meet him in person for 2 days. I flew out to Miami, got in debt, had to walk 4.5 hours because I couldn't afford a hotel near the guy's fucking place to go get information. Some people can't even watch a Zoom call for 2 hours. I walked 4.5 hours to get information. I sold my Xbox to buy my first course. Now, obviously, you guys have got good mindset. I'm not saying you don't, but some people don't. Every day I was sending charts, getting feedback. Every day, not once here and there, you know? And it's just repetition, brother. Like that's really what it comes down to is repetition. Like it literally, they said to master any skill, and like this is a really good book I think everyone should read, Mastery by Robert Greene, because it helps you actually understand the process of how to master a skill. All right. And how you master a skill is you need 10,000 hours. So if you think about it, right, if you're doing an hour a day on the charts, 5 days a week, that's 5 hours a week. Over the course of a year, that's around 200 hours ish a year. Bro, how many years is that going to take you to master it? Now, do you need 10,000 hours to be a full-time trader? No. But the point is, put in that work. Now, obviously, if you use tools like, for example, the scanner, You're not gonna need fucking anywhere near 10,000 hours. But yeah, the point is, bro, like it looks easy because we've done it more than you. That's it. If you're struggling, that means you haven't done enough. Like you should put Alex Hormozy says it best. The amount of effort and the amount of volume you should do should make it impossible for you to fail. You have to outwork yourself down. Like if you're stuck, if you're confused, if you're unsure, get on a piece of paper, right, and draw 100 circles. Do that for 100 chart markups. So mark up 100 charts on 100 different time frames on 100 different days on 100 different markets and ask 100 questions and do at least 100 hours of education. I guarantee you, if you can do that, it will become easy for you. But that's the problem. People don't want to do that. They just want to, I don't know, just join the fucking signal group and get spoon-fed shit. Well, I think you guys are not like that. But what most people are like. And like that's the brutal truth of it. Like if you want to go gym, and get a good body, like, since January, I've lost like I think like almost 14 kilograms now, something like that. Consistency. It's just doing the same thing every day. And of course, is there points where I felt like, oh, I'm falling off track? Of course. Is there points where I might have backtracked and my scale went up a little bit? Of course. But you focus on the bigger picture. When I was learning, of course, there were days where it fucking felt hard. Of course, it was like, yes, one day it's really easy and it's really good. And then the next day, what the fuck am I looking at, bruv? This doesn't make sense. But when you stay consistent, and what does consistency mean? It doesn't mean being perfect every day. All right. It means going to the market and doing something every day. Some days will be 100, some days will be 20, some days will be 10, some days will be 5, some days will be 2,000. But as long as you keep showing up, you keep doing what? You mark up your end of day markups every day. You go back and look at the charts daily. You ask questions every day. You send feedback every day. You continue to grow. You continue to educate yourself. Continue to invest into your future and your education. You keep doing that, you will keep growing. But the second you stop growing is the second you start dying. The second you stop attending events, attending the calls, continuing to reinvest into education. These are the things that cause you to start breaking structure and entering downtrends, and your progress doesn't feel good. But, as cliche as it is, if you keep doing those things every day, you're going to continue getting better. And that's how it becomes easier. That's how it becomes easy, is putting in a shit ton of hours. And sometimes that's not the answer people want to hear, but that's the answer we need to hear. And I say that from experience. Like my first 4 months, right, I brought my first course, right? I paid my first mentor. And this was one of the mentors, this was Pips of Persia back in the day. And I remember, where is he? He's not public anymore, doing his own thing. But maybe I might stop going public soon, who knows? But the point is, no, I'm good. I'm here for a minute, don't worry. But even when I first got my first mentor, right? Bro, my first few months, I had made no progress. And I remember like 3, 4 months into it, and I'm like, bro, I'm not making no money. I'm not understanding this. This ain't making sense. And I remember I speak to a mentor and I'm like, bro, like I'm stuck. I'm not making progress. Like I think you're a scammer. Like, you're not profitable. And he's like, all right, man. So just tell me what you actually do on a day-to-day basis. So I'm like, all right. Now wake up. I just kind of diddle around for a bit, maybe spend like 20 minutes on the charts. He's like, all right, well, how much of the course have you gone through? Maybe like 2 videos. And it was like 20. Oh, okay. So you've watched 2 out of the 20 videos. How many times have you watched those two? Once. Oh, okay. So how many charts have you sent me? One. Oh, all right. So how many times did you attend our events? None. Oh, well, okay. How many times did you watch our Zoom calls that we do twice a week? None. So we said, there you go. It's not working because you're not working. And that's when it hit me. I was like, what the fuck? I don't know why, but like that, when he said that it's not working because you're not working, that's what made me realize. Then he started to explain what he does on a day-to-day basis. And when I realized that I'm spending maybe 10, 15 minutes bullshitting, with my dick in my, well, not literally, but like, like just laying in my bed, watching a video here and there, scrolling on TikTok, like just dicking around, no wonder I wasn't making progress. But then I see that, oh, he's on the charts, he's doing his pre-market analysis, he's journaling, he's educating himself, he's asking his mentor questions, he's going to events, he's attending Zoom calls, he's still learning, he's still growing. And he's, at that point, I think he was full-time trading for maybe like 3 or 4 years or some shit. I can't remember. But that's what made me realize, all right, this guy's put in at least 5, 6, maybe 10 hours a day, and he's made it. And I'm thinking I'm good enough doing 20 minutes, 30 minutes a day. That was why I wasn't making progress. So all I then did was, well, we all know what to, I think most of us know what to do. I just did more of it. Obviously, if you don't know what to do, that's where we have to speak about that. But you do your daily method of operations. You go back test what happened yesterday on the charts. You educate yourself every day. Back test yesterday's price action every day. Mark up the charts for the day and create your if then scenarios. If I didn't mention educate yourself, you educate yourself every day. You get feedback every day. Every day. You don't just do it when you feel like it. That's why you don't make progress. Like, do you think I would have lost 14 kilograms in 4 or 5 months if I ate what I felt like? No. There's times where I'm fucking hungry as shit and I'm like, I can't eat more because I'm gonna get fat. You know what I mean? There's times when I'm going to the markets like, oh, I don't want to do this today, but I have to because it's not about how I feel, it's about what I want. And I think that's the difference between someone who becomes profitable and not, is they operate based on their feelings versus what they want. So yeah. All right. Do I think oil will hit 200? Potentially. We'll have to look at the chart. We'll get into that in a sec. Couple more trade recaps, and then we'll get into it. So we didn't have ES from Thursday. We took this one on the call. So obviously, where was we on Thursday? We had our demand zone, right? Again, price came into our demand zone. What did we do? Law of supply and demand. Have a reaccumulation, wait for it to come back into it. Go to a lower time frame, wait for your scanner to call an entry, or play an accumulation and reaccumulation. That's it. Price came in, built an accumulation. We did that in depth. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because we did the in-depth analysis on this on the Thursday call. Obviously, we turned our scanner to bullish, because we're buying, right? Obviously, we only trade this during New York. Very simple. We had our accumulation, Frankfurt sweep, market confirmed our reaccumulation and our schematic. We zoomed into the blue box. We saw our LPSY and we said, look, either one, we're going to come mitigate this reaccumulation, or we're going to sweep these lows, mitigate this, and we'd obviously, trade out of that to continue higher. And we go on to I think it was the 5 minute. Excuse me. But oh yeah, I think in the 5 minute we had an entry during London, but the scanner called it. Where was it? I think it was the 1 minute. Was it the 1 minute? Yeah, we had a scanner called beautiful entry. All right. Obviously, the scanner called an entry back here. So there's a few ways you could have played it. You could have played the market execution off the scanner call. Again, I wouldn't put my stop that low. In this case, you could offset it below the 50, take another entry at the 50, stop below the low, or of course, just fib up the schematic and place one off the 80. Then you can see we took these on the call. She comes in, smacks the 80%, and obviously starts rallying towards those targets. And then obviously we zoom out. What was our targets? So we obviously had this devil's advocate. We had this liquidity, right? And we was going to see if we was going to go and crack a new high, right? But obviously this is where now time and price comes in. The market was nicely rallying throughout New York. And normally, if you get like a nice position in New York, it should just rally up until like 8 p.m. UK time. Yeah, that's a nugget. You should write that one down. All right, you get the optimal entry. It should keep rallying up until 8 p.m. UK time. Now, why 8 p.m. UK time? Because 8 p.m. UK time is called power hour. Good, exactly, bro. And power hour, you tend to see a lot of reversals. So at power hour, if you're in a trade and you start seeing it distribute at 8, 9 p.m. UK time, what do? You fucking take profit. At this point, you can see it's already hit our targets. And again, don't be greedy. You're up a 1 to 8 off the 50 entry, a 1 to 19 off the 80 entry. Closed the whole fucking trade. Our Bangkok time. What is that? Like 2 a.m. something like that. Close the trade. You know, or even like even if you got to the 80%, you know, and obviously if you have a prop firm, like top step, they'll manually close you out at like 9 p.m. anyway. Um, or just set your TPs. You set your TPs. Devil's advocate. Set your TPs on the highs. You ain't got to be too greedy. And even they would have hit during New York session. Obviously, if your time zones are more crazy, and it's really late for you, you probably want to trade like Euro USD, GU, or UK 100 during London session, or like AU or NU or something. Here at 8 p.m. UK time, we start seeing that reversal. Take profit, you're done. You're up a 1 to 19 or 1 to 8. You ain't got to be greedy. Now, if you do want to hold a swing trade for this, all right, cool. Well, obviously, these are day trades. You want to hold a swing trade? All right, cool. Put your entries at break even now. You've taken at least 50% profit, and you leave a runner to the highs. And for me, I closed out fully. These were just day trades. And then after that, yeah, she ended up just rolling over and taking us out. But doesn't matter. Take profit. And like we mentioned, you take a trade in blue box. If you get that optimal trade entry in discount, you should be good to hold that up until around that 8 p.m. Does that make sense? So that was Thursday's trade. And then from there, we had Friday's trade on Euro USD, which was an absolute beauty. And again, if you're sitting here, if you're unsure, don't be shy and ask questions, please. Don't be afraid to ask questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question. So from there, it was pretty simple. I mean, obviously, if we go back to Euro trade, so obviously with Euro, based on the dollar, we confirmed that reaccumulation we mentioned on the dollar. We came into the reload, and it was just a case now of, are we going to see effort come into the market in here? All right, obviously this is in our demand zone, obviously going on Euro USD. All right, was in our, oh, it's still moved. Clean this up a little bit. So we came into our supply. All right, we had a little distribution in there. We can see, we go to a lower time frame. What? Okay, coming. You can see as we come into our supply, a shit ton of volume coming in. All right, we start building a beautiful schematic, then we start boofing. Obviously, traditionally, if you're trading this type 4, you got to wait for this break. But why don't we need to wait for the break is because we have volume, we have absorption. Absorption is the number one most powerful confirmation you can have, next to laggers and leaders. So you can see here, at this point, we get the absorption signal here. So you could have taken that if you wanted. But again, for me, I didn't want to take this yet. And again, you can see a shit ton of absorption, shit ton of volume. But I don't want to take this yet because I'm still in an uptrend on a lower time frame. You can see I'm not going to take any of these shorts because we're in an uptrend. Even though it calls on the M5, I'm still in an uptrend. So I'm waiting for this trend to shift. So when the trend starts to shift, I guess what? I now get another scanner signal. So what do? Short, stop above the high, don't think, take the trade. Again, if you want to manually do it and do your little refinements, of course you could have fibbed up here, played off the 50 or the 80 if you really wanted to. And it also gave a little micro down in here. Because it gave a little micro mitigation and then go. But I just played off. Yeah, I think it was the M5. Yeah, when the M5 called it, I just market executed. So the M5 called it roughly here. You had 5 minutes, 10 minutes to enter, 15 minutes to enter. And NFP drops. Wait for it. Boom. NFP drops and just fucking sinks it. And to me, going to these lows was a 1 to 14. That was enough. I closed like most of the trade. I think I closed the whole thing at this low, to be honest with you. I have to check, but yeah, I pretty much just closed the whole trade, and that was it. I mean, sure, shit, did she run? I mean, she did. Shit, I mean, she could have went for a 1 to fucking whatever, but I really couldn't care. For me, 1 to 14 in, bro, in literally what, like, bro, in less than an hour, like, I'm good, bro. I'm done. Four back-to-back winning days. It was fantastic. I did take one losing trade actually. I think it was on Thursday on Euro. Yeah, in here. Um, I was trying to play the redistro here. I think I got a signal on the 1 minute on my scanner. Yeah, I got an absorption signal in here out of this distro. And again, like you're gonna lose trades. I played this short off here, swinging it down, stop was up those highs, and yeah, ended up taking me out. So there are gonna be times you're gonna lose, but that was Thursday, and then obviously on Thursday we had the was it the S&P trade? I think yeah, it was the S&P trade on Thursday that made that one back. So yeah, last week was beautiful, man. I had a winning trade, winning day every day, which was absolutely beautiful. I noticed my blue box doesn't always show at NY Open, and I'm in New York. What do you mean? Like the indicator? I mean, firstly, make sure you got the right times on it for the blue box. And you don't you don't need the blue box on the chart, Like you just got to realize that the blue box is just a time of day, Like if you just remember that I mean it can help, but if you just remember every day at 2:30 UK time, that's the New York Stock Exchange, it should be good. But if it's not, just make sure your visibility's on and make sure you've turned the settings on and the right time zone exchange and the right settings, and it should work. Was there a reason to hold it past the low? I mean, yeah, you could have. You could have went to where is it? You could have went down to oops. You could have went down to these lows. That's getting really messy. You could have went down to these lows here, right? And you could have played like a measured move or a fib extension. So measuring that move, from your mitigation point. That's basically the same sort of area. And you also could have played a measured move or extension from here down. I mean, that's still quite beyond. Obviously, if you would have done the trend fib extension, I think that would have lined up with a 127. So if I'm going to do like a measured move, I always do both, And obviously the 127 is closer, so I'll do that. So I mean, again, you could have did that, played the larger swing, but I mean, I really couldn't. I wasn't really bothered about that. Hitting a 1 to 14 in 50 minutes, that's just enough, you know. And I think that's something that some traders do struggle with is like they'll hit a trade and they'll close and it will just rally or drop after that and then get this fear of missing out. But you just got to be grateful, man. Like if you hit a TP, you've hit a TP. You've already done the fucking hardest thing there is. You just can't like don't cry over spilled milk. Easier said than done, but this is where now like as a trader you got to focus on your mental state. Like we mentioned the four pillars, your psychology. That's one of them. You have to focus. Like when I go to the chart now, right? Like obviously, there's different stages of your career. At the start of your trading career, yeah, you got to focus on your technicals, your economics, and you got to train your eye. But once you've got to a point when your mentor's telling you, yes, bro, consistently your charts look good. Yes, bro, consistently your trades are valid. Then at that point, you stop focusing so much on, right, is this a valid trade? Because you're looking at valid trades every day, you've trained your eye and you keep continuing to train that. But sorry, I got to change the AC. But it then starts to change to, am I in the right state of mind to trade? Because if you don't know yourself and don't know the state of mind you're in, that's going to be your biggest downfall. Like I think someone in the group, when I said I was looking at Euro shorts, I think it was on Friday, right? Someone was like, "Oh, Kieran, bro, aren't you over trading?" No, because I'm aware of my state of mind, right? And if you're not aware of your state of mind and you're continuing to look for trades, you're probably emotional at that point. But if you can be aware of your state of mind and know that you're neutral and know that your biological signatures are not affecting you, that's obviously as you we'll go through more stuff on the psychology. I'm going to film some whole modules on it. But as you start to develop your psychology, you start to get that signatures and signs that you know if you're in a good state of mind. And a good rule of thumb to do as well is like if you're in profit, like let's say you're up $1,000 for the week, right? I will allocate myself a certain buffer. So let's say I'm up $1,000 for the week. I'll say, all right, cool. I'll play with $250 out of this. Now, again, I might just completely stop trading, but for the next week, I might say, look, I'm a only play with $250 out of this thousand profit. So let's say now I place, 3 or 4 trades and then lose that 250. All right, cool. I'm not going to continue trading. I'm still up my 750. I make my payout, make my withdrawal. I'm done. Walk away, come back the week after that. Having that buffer. But again, the buffer is not important. The important thing is the state of mind you're trading from. Because if you're not aware of your state of mind, if you're not aware if your emotions are present, that you're going to go to the market, you're going to take trades, you're going to hesitate, you're going to doubt yourself, you're going to over risk, you're going to go back and look at your setups like, what was I thinking? Why did I take that trade? Because you weren't aware of your emotions. Have you got eyes on? We haven't actually done a markup yet. I mean, I don't really think there's going to be much today after Friday's monstrous move. But if anything, indices. But we're not even into the open yet. I don't think there'll be a trade at the indice open. So like in terms of what I'm looking at for today, I mean, I'm going to speed run this. We spoke about our economics. I mean, Euro USD is going to be pretty simple. I'm just going to be waiting for it to mitigate this larger redistribution and play continuations out of this. Uh, Pretty much it. Pretty simple on the old Euro USD. There's not much else for it. Um, so yeah, pretty much look for a short out of that. But I don't think we're going to get this today. Um, if we do start distributing and then redistributing, maybe I'll play some continuations down. But for today, at this moment in time, there's nothing I really have my eyes on. For euro or the dollar, I mean, again, if the dollar wants to come down into here or down into here, we can look for buys, but we've still got some room to come down on terms of the dollar. So there's not too much on there today. Um, how long would you say it took you personally to get to a consistent level in terms of trust in your eyes? Bro, like the thing is, it's hard to say that, man, because there's obviously always different like obstacles and different things you're gonna struggle with, right? You're always gonna train your eye. You never like make it, you never make it. The second you think you made it, the second you think your eye's trained is the second you're about to collapse and everything's gonna get shit. Um, but I would say like once you start hitting like 250 hours, 500 hours, that's probably when you start getting good, in my opinion, roughly. So, if you're doing an hour a day, probably a few months at least. If you're, that's what you got to think about, right? How much time am I doing a day? Where is your time going? Because some of you lot will spend 4 hours on fucking Instagram a day, but 1 hour on, focus on your future. So that's what it comes down to. So if you think about it, if you're doing 1 hour a day, 5 days a week, that's 20 hours a month. So that's going to take you roughly 10 months to get good at manually trading, So if you're now doing 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, that'll take you 5 months. If you're now doing, 4 hours a day, it'll take you 2.5 months. Now, obviously, if you're doing mentorship and all that shit, it will accelerate your process a lot quicker. But I meant like just sort of doing it by yourself. Um, Yeah. So it really just comes down to that. But again, it's not just like hours, because a lot of people think, oh, if I just put in loads of hours by myself, I'm going to get better. No, it doesn't work like that. Because if you're practicing, practice doesn't make perfect. And again, a lot of people think that, oh, wait, I just realized my camera wasn't on. Wait, was it? Let me put my camera here. Should be able to see me now. There we go. But like practice doesn't make perfect, right? Practice makes permanent. So if you're working hard and putting in hours every day, that's not going to do anything for you unless you're getting feedback. Because if you're practicing, you're reinforcing those bad habits again and again and again and again and again. Unless you're getting that work checked, then 1 hour of getting your work checked is better than 10 hours of doing it by yourself. Because for those 10 hours, you could be reinforcing bad habits again and again and again and again versus 1 hour. All right, I made a quick mistake. I fixed it straight away. Yeah. So the biggest thing, bro, is just outwork yourself out. And that's really what it comes down to. So yeah. So yeah, in terms of dollar, we'll see if the dollar comes down. I don't expect anything today. If the dollar does want to start going on a rampage and showing reaccumulations, yeah, maybe we can play some small mitigations and sells down. But at this point, I don't see much for euro today or dollar. In terms of Goldilocks, and yeah, she's been doing everything we wanted, but at this point, to take another trade, yeah, she's gonna need to come back up to supply. I don't think there's much on this today. Um, yeah, I don't really want to be shorting this much in discount on metals, so there's not much I'm gonna do in metals today. Bitcoin is still selling off. I mean, there's a small chance we might get a bounce and come back up to like 70K before dropping. But I'm still waiting for Bitcoin to come to like, 40K, you know, 25K. Oh man, it's so funny. XRP approves banking payments via Swift. Clarity Act. Get fucked. Right. I'll show you something funny as well. Buy XRP. Buy XRP. UTAD. Fat distro. If anyone tells you to buy XRP, mate, they ain't got a clue. But yeah, can we counter trend down on Bitcoin? Yeah, definitely, bro. I mean, what do you mean? I mean, but define counter. The trend is bearish at this point. So if you want to buy it, no, stick to shorts. So yeah, on Bitcoin, there's like we did crack this low. So she bought 20K worth of XRP 6 months ago. Oh, she's in a fat loss. Bless her. I mean, it's probably still chance they're going to go up over the next few years, but like the reason I don't like XRP is because the goal of XRP, like the price is dependent on if I'm not mistaken, but the price is dependent on oh no, the transaction fee is dependent on the price, if I'm not mistaken. So naturally, they want XRP to be a lowered price, and it's a centralized crypto, which, in my opinion, defeats the whole point of crypto anyway. No, bro, you don't want to be counter trend trading. Just stick to the pro trend. Don't look at Bitcoin and IC markets. You wanna if you're looking at because this is like I know Bitcoin's a unregulated market, but if you're gonna trade it, you want to trade it where it has most of the volume, which is Coinbase or Binance, not the CME. All right, Binance and Coinbase have more liquidity than that, so you want it from Coinbase or Binance. But no, it's not worth bringing it up because at any point this thing can just keep rolling over, and we've still got room to come lower. So I don't really want to be buying this yet. I mean, it's different, and we're already in supply. Like when we was back, like for example, going back in March, and was playing a few like counter trend buys up, right? It's because we wasn't near supply. We had room to go up, and we went into the counter trend model. But now we're actually still in supply. Like if we was down here, maybe, but where are we? We're still supplies from here all the way up to here, and we are still in supply. So yeah. ETH, yeah, same thing. See if ETH can give a little bounce back up before continuing to short down to the end of the year. Yeah, I don't see much on cryptos. Wait, let's see. Let me investigate on here. No. Yeah, not much. Not much on cryptos, not much on currencies, but indices potentially. So I'm aware of this big sell-off, right, that we obviously had. Put this up a little bit. But we did still come into this POI, right? So I am mindful that we could roll over on this. So I'm not going to be too aggressive today. But if I can see these really hold these reaccumulations, so I think NAS has confirmed a reaccum. Has ES confirmed it? Not yet. So I'd want ES to confirm it too. I want ES to break up these highs. And I'd want the same on YM as well. I'd want YM to crack that. In terms of my lagger today, I would probably say ES is lagging at this point, but it's still too early to tell because the laggers and leaders could switch. Because right now ES and YM are starting to rally, and NQ looks like it's starting to give a small sell-off. So what could happen is we could see a switch that NQ becomes a lagger. Because if NQ starts coming down to here and ES and YM are still pumping, then they become our leaders. So I'm going to sort of keep an eye on it. This second, there's not much I'm going to do. I'm going to ping an alert in here. And again, I'm going to be cautious that we could just, roll over. And if we break this, then I'm pretty much done for the week. And for buys, I think I'll probably switch to shorts at that point, especially if we see the redistros. But for now, we come into demand and we starting to enter a bullish market cycle. So I'm going to keep an eye on what ES wants to do and YM. I mean, until ES breaks that high, there's really not much to do on this or YM. So YM and ES need to show some strength and at least start breaking the Monday supply. But yeah, right. There's not much that this second, bro. To be honest with you. Why are you done for the week? Oh, well, I said I'm done looking for buys because then we break the bullish market cycle. That's why I'm gonna, what if we break the bullish market cycle, what am I gonna trade? You know? So I'm done looking for buys if we break the bullish market cycle. Yeah, I mean, at this point in time, there's literally nothing to do. Um, yeah, I'll be real. I really think today's gonna be super quiet. Um, I didn't take anything yesterday. I don't know if I'm gonna take much today. And I'm gonna stay on here for a bit if we can catch up. How important is Monday's high and low? Um, are you asking like generally or in this specific example? Generally, no significance. I mean, so like you can get weekly cycles where like, for example, Monday can sell off, Tuesday can sell off. Like the low of the week is not a set day, but like you can get lows or highs of the week on like Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, right? So sometimes what can happen is Monday gives like a fake out, and then Tuesday maybe sets the low of the week, right? Or Monday and Tuesday gives a fake out, Wednesday sets the low of the week. Or for example, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday sells off, and then Thursday, Friday sets the low of the week. In this specific example, it's we have a distribution that happened on Monday, so like at this point, supply is here. So until I can validate that supply and confirm this reaccumulation, there's nothing for me to trade. But like I always have that sort of like weekly cycle in mind, and at the start of the week, I'm always cautious of those fake outs before the real move. Like for example, let's go to the dollar. Oh yeah. Let's see if I can find a good example. I mean, it's not like super textbook, like it's not every day, but like for example here, Monday fake move sell off, some of Tuesday fake move sell off, and then London gives highs and lows a day. Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday can give the high or low of the week. So Monday fake to the downside, Tuesday low of the week. You know, on this example, let's find a better one. It's not every day, but like just roughly, or like this example, Monday we rallied, Tuesday we rallied, and then that's probably not the best example. It's in a larger distro. Again, it's not every week, it's not picture perfect. So like you can see here this week, fucking Monday rallies, Tuesday rallies, Wednesday rallies, or Thursday rallies. But again, context. Where are we in the bigger picture? You know, in terms of that day, we are mitigating an accumulation. So when I'm in a mitigation of accumulation in a bullish market cycle, I don't need Tuesday or Wednesday to set the low of the week. It's all about the context. So like, for example, in a scenario now of like the dollar, we've seen, Monday give a fake move to the downside. You know, we could see a low of the week either today or maybe tomorrow or on Thursday, depending if we need to come deeper into demand, if that makes sense. So always be careful with those sort of fake moves, and that's why I don't really like trading Mondays because you can get those fake moves that occur. Um, Especially with inflation. Yeah, I mean, inflation is going to be coming out tomorrow, so the markets could wait for that. You need to see a break for what? Nate, bruv. What are we boys? What are we gonna say about Nathan's chart? Nathan, bruv. What is this? Is this is the other Nathan? Nate, fam. Hey, bruv. You gotta get rid of these lions, fam. I don't even know how you can blacklist him. Bro's not being coachable. I think we're gonna blacklist him. Okay, new rule, Nathan. I'm not gonna look at your charts until you get rid of the blue lines, bro. Send me that again without the blue lines. Remember, you go settings, more settings, scales and lines. No, no, sorry, no. Oh, awkward. Right click the back of the chart, go settings, go to where is it? Oh no. Oh no. Wait, what? Where's it gone? They have checked, bruv. No. I think they TradingView have changed it. They have changed the settings. They have changed the settings. Oh no, they are definitely here to stay then, eh? They have checked. Now that is gay. What happened? Bro, all right, bro, I have to let you off then. More set. They've actually got rid of it. You don't remember last week when we was having a go at Nathan and showing him how to change it? They actually changed it. Fair enough. There used to be a symbol, a thing here called electronic trading hours. I don't know if anyone can find it. The last Thursday. You took this scalp. Yeah, I mean, for I guess quick order flow, in and out. I mean, for me, I'm not gonna trade that, bro. Like, I just see all this. I think this is a larger distro, bro. All that liquidity. This is just order flow of order flow. So be very careful with your data. Yeah, I'm good. I think there's a lot of liquidity in there, and that's why it swept it. But I mean, that could have easily did that. So on a trade like this, you got to be careful because even though it wins, you like this is the problem because now you've won the trade, your brain's inclined to think you've done something right. But you need to go back and look at all your losses and see how many times you take losses that are in a type 4 distribution. Because if you now have this one winner, you're like, yeah, yeah, I did something right. But imagine now you go check your losses and you've got like eight losses, nine losses in a Type 4 distro. You know, I'd be very careful. And Canvas, I don't know where it's gone. Background, solid, grid lines, none. There used to be electronic trading hours. It's on yours? Okay, well, apparently mine's being extremely weird, but apparently on this one, symbol, electronic trading hours, and you can turn that to a pace, and it should get rid of them. But that's super strange. Before the NYSC, oh yeah, if it's before the NYSC, bro, be super careful. You don't want to like don't trade before the New York Stock Exchange. Um, yeah, I think it was. Yeah, it was, bro. That was just before the New York Open, man. And that, like, if you're trading a minute before the Open, that's when you can get extremely liquidated as well, because there's always a manip at the Open. So it looks like NQ is giving some strength. What's ES doing? Yay! All right, ES is confirming some strength. So it looks like we might be good for some buys today on this. And then YM is being super slow, but it's showing some strength. I mean, if we see some candles close above here, it should be enough. 15 is looking strong. So yeah, I mean, let's see. We can have a look in here. We can turn the old trade radar on for some buys. Can turn some signals on, get some alerts on. Turn on some multiple time frames. And then we wait. Thank you doesn't look bad. But yes, it's technically lagging behind yet. So I think the laggers and leaders could pretty much change soon. We have to keep an eye on what happens. Right now, I don't have an answer who I want to trade yet. Because like obviously ES is lagging technically and YM, but it's not clean yet. Like there's no manipulation or anything. So I would need to see some sort of shakeout. There's no shakeout yet. So there's literally nothing to do. I need a sweep of the liquidity before going. Yeah, ES just cracked that high. Very good. I'm gonna be cautious that we could get that pullback into here as well. But I will keep an eye on this volume area on NQ as well, because if like we pull back on NQ and then ES and YM just keep rallying, we might have to get involved on here. What's your thoughts on the new central bank leader? I don't really have enough thoughts on him yet, bro. He hasn't done anything, you know? It's still early days. I mean, I know he's more of a hawk, so he wants to raise rates, if anything, but it's still quite early, man. I really want to see what he's going to say on speeches. You go to settings, electronic in the symbol tab towards middle. Settings, symbol. Yeah, I don't. Oh, bro, am I tripping? I said, bro, I'm tripping, bro. I thought this was not here a minute ago. All right. Anyway, Nathan, let's get this done. So we'll go settings, symbol, electronic trading hours. Right, turn your opacity down to 0, and then please resend your chart. Our brains forget the losses, but remember the one trade that hits TP exactly, bro. And that's the problem. That's what fucks people up, right? They'll take 20 losers, win once, and then think that they did something right when it takes zero skill to win a trade. You can literally flip a coin, guess buy or sell, and be profitable. I can give my dog my trading platform. He can press buy or sell and make money. It's not hard. But doing it consistently back to back to back to back to back, having an equity curve where you win trades, lose a little, win more trades, lose a little, win more trades, and overall win more trades than you lose, That's where the skill of consistency comes in. And the skill of consistency is, again, just making sure you've mastered all four of the skills, right? You're good at technical analysis. You know you're good at technical analysis because your markups get validated, right? You're seeing your mentor tell you, an external third party, your mentor, not 1,000 people, your mentor's told you these are valid trades. Two, you've worked on your psychology. Your efficiency rate is good. You're not breaking your rules. You got your economic bias in check. And you're consistently going back and reflecting on your wins and losses. That's what makes you consistent. And doing all your DMOs as well. Um, can you shop at has exactly? You can't trade before the. I mean, technically you can trade, before the session, but it's never a good idea to trade before the New York session because if you look at every day at the session, there's some sort of manipulation at the open. There's always a shit ton of volume. So for me, it's like the win rate is a lot lower trading in London or trading any time below. It's always good to follow the data. Yeah, bro. If I'm not clear on the Lagrange leader, I'm just gonna wait. I mean, we can see. I guess YM is lagging the most right now, but regardless of anything lagger and leader, bro, there's just nothing to trade because there's no manipulation. Like this is all order flow. I don't trade order flow. High, 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 low, high, 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 low, high, high. I need a sweep and a break. You reckon indices are bear it? No, brother. Bro, where you been, man? We're bullish on these. We came into demand. All right, we're going NQ. We've come into demand. We're following the market cycle until it says no. You know, if we break these, then yeah, maybe we can probably be starting to come down. But yeah, this is looking extremely bullish on NQ. Same with ES. We might get a small pullback, but I mean, this second in time, there's nothing to trade. We need some sort of manip and pullback on YM first. For me to take a trade, I need the laws of Wyckoff, right? Law of supply and demand. I need schematics with manipulations. You know, I've got no manipulations. I've got nothing to mitigate, nothing to trade. Here, my manipulations here. In Q, my manipulation is similar here. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if we're going to be coming back today on this. Now that ES cracked, yeah. So now on ES, this has confirmed our reaccumulation. So distro, shakeout, break, and now we're playing something like that. It's still early. Oh no, there's a spider bug. Oh, I hate spiders so much. If I wasn't on a Zoom call, I'd be calling for my wife to come and grab this thing. Um, um, you s- you still have doubts or emotion kicking in now? Nah, bro. I mean, you will at the start, of course, because I mean, I think doubt comes in when you're in a trade because you just don't have experience. Like, naturally you're gonna doubt it when you haven't done it that many times. Of course you're gonna doubt it, but I think when you are looking at your setups, you've backtested it and you've seen it enough times, that's when you become confident. Like confidence comes from and confidence comes from when you have enough evidence that who you say you are, you actually are, because you've done it so many times. Like, for example, do you become confident in the gym the first day you go there? No, because it's your first day. Do you become confident the first time you've ridden a bike? No, because it's your first time. Right, bro, I remember when I was fucking learning to ride a motorbike. I was in Bali, bro, and the guy who couldn't even speak English was trying to teach me how to fucking change the gears and shit. It was a nightmare. But like, I wasn't confident, because I didn't do it before. But and bro, he wouldn't even tell me in English. He's just making noises like I'm like, oh fuck's sake. But I wasn't confident, right? First time I started placing trades, I wasn't confident. because I didn't do it enough. But what made me more confident? One was back testing my socks off. If you and even Richard Wyckoff himself says this in his teachings. If every day and every week you can go to the markets and just back test, fuck what you trade. You can just back test a winning trade every week. Eventually, you're guaranteed to become profitable if you master obviously the other skills. But that's the first thing. Seeing your schematics mitigate, seeing your, for example, your PO, like the scanner coming into a POI, calling a signal, and then seeing it play out. And when I say see, I don't mean live, I mean back testing. That's why every day, every week, like I just showed you guys five trades. I showed you a loser and four beautiful winners. Go back test all five of those trades. Right? This is how I know someone will be profitable or not. Because if you go on if don't backtest those trades, you're not serious about training your eye, right? But if you're serious about becoming profitable, you'd go and find those five trades we showed you at the start. You'd go onto the chart, you'd backtest them, you'd go create case studies on them, because that like the hours of trading, that's what it's about. That's the reps. You go to the gym, you want to get bigger muscles or whatever. You got to put the time in doing the exercise. You don't just fucking stare at the weight and get bigger biceps. No, you got to lift the shit, right? So same thing with the market. The hours come from you repeatedly seeing that setup again and again and again and again and again. So, and then not just doing that, getting it validated, getting that external feedback. All right, bro, what you're looking at is good. All right, bro, that back test you've done, your understanding is correct. The back test you found by yourself is correct or isn't correct. Now you do that 100 times, 200 times, 500 times, 1,000 times, there's not going to be any doubt anymore. Now, when you're taking it live, there's only doubt if you're putting pressure on that trade winning. When I take a trade, I don't think that trade's going to win. I don't expect that trade to win. I know I've got a very high win rate, especially using this scanner. My win rate is extremely high. I think last time I checked, it's at like 80% now. It's fucking insane. But the point is, I don't expect every trade to win. I could take four losing trades in a row. Does that mean I don't have an 80% win rate? No, because your trading plan doesn't tell you on a trade by trade basis if the next trade is going to win or lose. You could lose 10 trades in a row and still have a 90% win rate. What? Kieran, you lost 10 trades in a row. You haven't got a 90% win rate. Yeah, look at the last 1,000 trades we took. That's the difference. So when you're taking a trade, you're not putting that pressure on yourself. The next trade is going to win or lose. You're saying, all right, I've got my trading plan. My trading plan doesn't tell me that this next trade will win or lose. My trading plan just tells me if I follow this plan 1,000 times, 10,000 times, over time, that's when the profitability starts to show. Like you'll have, some days, like for example, Thursday, started the day, account negative. Why? Because we lost the trade on Euro. Am I going to sit and cry about that trade? No, it fucking doesn't care. Because why don't I care? One, I'm not focusing on the next trade. I'm focused on the next 20, 30, 40, 50 trades. Two, I accepted the amount I'm risking. I said, look, I'm willing to risk 0.5% on this trade. I'm willing to risk, let's just say $500, 1,000, whatever. I'm willing to risk this amount. So I emotionally accept the loss. Okay, if I lose this 500, it's okay. I've got my scenario. If it loses and gives another signal in the zone, I'll take another one. If it, for example, let's say I'm shorting, all right, cool. It does that and it gives me, I take the trade. I don't expect that single trade to lose. I expect if I take that setup 1,000 times, the majority will win, yeah, but not on an individual basis. So now if that trade loses, I don't care because I'm not thinking that single trade's going to win, and I've emotionally accepted an amount I'm comfortable losing. Okay, I'm happy to lose $500, 1%, 50, whatever, right? You define that, and then you think about the next amount of trades. Then, obviously, that's where you have to focus on regulating your emotions too and remaining calm because a lot of people just focus on the charts and not the state of mind you're in, right? Like if your emotions are like starting to get to you, your judgment's going to be clouded. You're not going to be seeing reality clearly. So your perception of the market's going to be changed. So at that point, your only goal is not to trade, but to focus on regulating and calming your emotions down. That's why when some of you you'll have a winning trade, then you go on a losing streak. Or like, how many times have some of you guys, or how many times Have some of you guys been up 5% on a funded account, 7%, you're about to pass, and then the next week you blow it. You give all that profit back. That's not because, well, there's a few reasons, right? One, you probably ain't got a track record. Two, you're getting emotional, right? And if you had a track record of 400 trades that prove you're profitable, you wouldn't be emotional because you had the experience and the data points that proved you're profitable. So when you're building that track record before you do a funded to stop you giving your money back, you start practicing on your psychology, on your emotions. Because when you're going through those two, three, 400 track record practice trades, you get to experience your emotions live. Okay, when I go on a few winning trades, I go on a losing streak. Why? Because your emotions start kicking in. You start taking the losses personal. You become unaware of what's happening inside of your brain and inside of your body, and you start hyperfixating on everything external to you. Oh, what's the chart doing? What's the signal doing? What's the market? Bro, you're not going to see the market clearly. You know when you're driving and you turn off your window wipers and you can't see in front of you and the fucking thing gets blurry? That's what it's like when you're trading without using your being aware of your emotions. You ain't got the window wipers on. So instead of focusing so much on the chart, you got to focus on your emotional state. And if you have any of those biological signatures, like what's your heart rate doing? Is your heart rate starting to spike? Is your breathing starting to change? Are you having physical tension in your body? That's why you got to study yourself and know what am I are my biological signatures for reflection. Like you can do all the chart work all day long, but if you're not focusing on that emotional side of it and knowing the state of mind you're in, it doesn't, you're never going to be consistent. You'll constantly make money and give it all back because you're not focused on that. Now, some of you lot have great emotional awareness and great self-awareness. But if you're still not profitable during that, it's because your technicals are shit. You know, it's one or the other. But if you've gone through the right process where you've created your case studies and you've got feedback on your charts and continue to get feedback on your charts, that's the key. Continue to get that feedback and then your charts are still and then your charts are still good, yeah, it's probably just emotions if you keep giving profit back. But if your emotions are good and you think you're following your plan but still losing, get those charts checked. Because if you're still losing, you're probably doing something wrong. And that's what it always comes down to. Either comes down to one of those four skills. All trading problems come from lacking in one of those four areas: reflection and collecting data, technical analysis, psychology, or economics. Your economics are wrong because you've got the market direction wrong. Your psychology is bad because you break your rules, you hesitate, over risk, over leverage, chase the market with trades. Your technicals are bad because you haven't reviewed it by a mentor, right? Your heart rate spike and see, all right, cool. So now this is where you got to know now what happens. So for you specifically, if your heart rate starts spiking, seeing NQ coming back to your zone, what do you as an individual now do? Do you as it, and this is where again having those conversations with your mentor comes in, so they can pick out these things that you can't see. So for example, for you, maybe you hesitate. So for you, if you hesitate and always miss a trade that works out when your heart rate spikes, you do the opposite. For you, if you hesitate when that heart rate spikes, motherfucker, you take the trade. But for someone who hesitates, or for example, sorry, for someone who heart rate spikes, get emotional, and they lose trades and enter too quickly, they have to walk away and not trade. You know? So different strokes for different folks. But that's the key. The key is to be aware of those emotions. Right? So yeah, not much really going on. I don't think we're gonna get much yet anyway. How are you scared of the spider but stare down a king cobra at your gym? Bruv, snakes, bro, they're easy, bruv, you know? Like, you know, snakes just, bro, they're big, you can see it, it's easy to defeat it, it's not that hard. You can just fucking grab the motherfucker by the head, you know, and it's easy. You know, I ain't grabbing the king cobra, bro. You should have seen the Thai guy, bro. He had no fear. My man, bro, he just came with his stick and just pinned that motherfucker down. But spiders, brother, I don't know, man. Yeah, they are weird, bruv. Like, you know. them things are weird, bro. And they're creepy. Like, oh, bro, my biggest thing is like a spider going in your ear or some shit. Like, oh, mate. You ever seen those videos or like TikTok or something where like someone has like a spider in their ear or some shit? Oh, mate, that shit. Ugh, like, that they creep me out. I don't know what it is. I think because they're so small, bruv. Right now, aha! He got off the lines. Very nice. Um, where would the booth be? What do you mean? Where would the booth be? Booth, booth. But where would the booth be if I want to take buys? Um, here. We had the distro, we invalidated supply, and we broke to the upside. So now we're coming back to demand, we're mitigating, and we're showing strength. So ES cracked that high and invalidated supply. Is that now cause and effect? Um, if you're arguing that accumulation, so there's two ways you can look at cause and effect. This demand has invalidated this supply, or you could look at it like, uh, well, this reaccum maybe invalidates this or that supply. But because we're in a POI, I don't need it to break anything. Like being in the POI, seeing that break that, that's enough for me. Oh, yeah, bruv. Proper fucking heebie-jeebies. Oh, I didn't check oil. I mean, oil. Last time I checked oil, it was just kind of sideways, mate. Like, what's it been doing? Oil makes want to sleep. Yeah, bruv. What are we gonna do with this? Well, since March has been doing nothing. Yeah, nothing to look at, mate. Absolutely nothing. It's just coiling up, probably sweep the lows and then maybe rally. But yeah, I've got no desire to look at this. We can check what dollar's doing, but I don't see much on the dollar today. I think if I am going to do anything with dollar, I would at the very least need to see some breaks above some of this minor supply and then play reaccums. But um, yeah, I'd rather it come all the way down here. But I think if there's going to be anything there, it'd probably be indices. Um, but again, I don't really want to be like that aggressive, man. I'll be real with you. Maybe I'm being hesitant after a great week, but I mean, there's not much. I mean, yeah, that's all there is. Just if it comes into there and shows effort, we'll buy it. That's it. But I think shortly we'll start to figure out exactly who our lagger and leader is. Depends on how far we pull back on these things. If we start, whoever pulls back the deepest is the one I'm going to trade. But so it's a little bit early to know. Just to hide the leg, bro. Just not on here. It's always my target. Obviously, I'll take partials on the way, but um, oh, excuse me, boys. So this is now where I'd go and do. If I wasn't on the Zoom, what would I be doing? Would I be sitting here now staring at this? Definitely not. All right. If I wasn't on the Zoom, I'd be doing anything else apart from trading. I'd be working on, like, if you want to work on trading still, you go back test, you go educate yourself, you go work on your economics, you work on your psychology, you dive into your journal, you do anything else but staring at the chart. But this is literally the worst thing to do. There's nothing to do. Gonna have an alert on this high, alert on this low in the 50. Excuse me. And same thing. And now, all we do now is you just wait for it to come in here. It comes in there, scanner calls something, take the trade. Reaccumulates, comes back in here, scanner calls something, take the trade. It wouldn't be crazy. It's just you got to define what you're doing, bro. Are you day trading or you swing trading? For a day trade, yeah, that's impossible. It's not happening in one day. When there's no news either, it's not happening today. Um, you're getting into swing trading for that. I mean, you can if you, I mean, you can. I think day trading is probably easier. Now again, why do you want to swing trade? Do you want to do it out of fear of missing out? That if it does go up, you wouldn't be in the trade, or it's just your preference? If it's your preference, there's nothing wrong with that. You're just going to be taking a lot less trades. Yeah, I mean, if that's your preference, I mean, that'll probably be the only trade you're going to get this month. Yeah, you could. I mean, but like regardless of swinging or not, like you got to know your legs. And this is your leg. If you're taking an entry in here, that's your main target still. If you're swinging, by the time you've taken that high, you want to close probably at least 50% of the trade. And then yeah, you can hold. There's a supply here. You can take some partials in here, and then see if it rallies to the high. Um, but yeah, I mean, there is a small chance that these things could roll over and sweep all this. But I mean, swing trading is nice, but you only get a few trades. It's not really that often you get swings. You know, um, yeah. I mean, you can, but yeah, boys, there's not really much else to do. Unless anyone's got any other questions, there's really not much else. It's a case of really seeing if it. And again, just going back to the start when someone said, "Oh, no, can we take trades on the call?" Well, what am I going to take? You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing to take. You know. And now this is what trading really is. You know, you go to the market, you create a narrative, you create an if-then scenario. If it comes down here and calls me a trade, I take it. If it reaccumulates and comes back and calls me a trade, I take it. That's it. Now I just got to wait, you know? And it's that impatience that will now fuck you up. So this is where you need to do something else. And it's like sometimes people like I'm sorry if this is going to offend anyone, but probably the dumbest thing you could do is quit your job to try and learn how to trade. Like so many people will be like, "Oh, I'm gonna quit my job to learn how to trade." Like, bro, that is the dumbest thing you could do because one, you haven't got the experience, and two, trading pays you to wait. It literally pays you to do nothing. That's how you get paid. So, okay, imagine for example, yesterday, no trades, right? You're being emotional. You're going to go to the market. Oh, I need to pay my bills. You're going to force setups. You're going to force funded accounts. Like I even had someone message me was like, bro, I quit my job to learn to trade. I'm not making any money. And I'm like, bro, like that's the worst thing you can do because you're now trading not to follow your objective. The only objective of trading is to follow your plan and manage risk. As a byproduct, you start making profit. But when you quit your job prematurely, your only focus now is making money, right? So now you're not going to the market to manage risk or follow your plan. You're going there with the intention to make money. So how is that going to manifest differently? Today, trader A goes to the market, sits there on the fucking 1 minute time frame. New York Open. Oh boys, there's a trade here. Oh, buy limit, set, buy straight away. First, the experienced trader zooms out, right? Well, potentially in a distro, would rather it come down. ES wasn't showing any reactions out of the POI either. We're not going to take those silly trades. We're okay with waiting. All right, so now NQ's coming back to the zone. What I'm going to wait for is if NQ is going to call me a little signal. And I'm also going to keep an eye on ES to see if we can get some strength on these. Yeah, and exactly that's what you want to do. You want to get jobs that like are not going to interfere with your trading. So like for me, I was working at Sainsbury's. I had some other little businesses I was doing on the side, but I was doing that shit during the evenings or on the weekends. Obviously, I understand people need, so they've got families and shit they got to provide for. I get that. But I had the opportunity to make more money at my job by working, for example, during New York session. I said no because I'd rather have that short-term sacrifice now so that every day can be a vacation, you know? Do I miss your old job? Nah, bro. I fucking hated every second of it. I don't dream of labor. I don't dream of labor, bro. I do not dream of labor. I'll tell you that. Nah. But I guess like you can argue that like in the sense that I miss how easy life was. Like people think that being a full-time trader is easier than working a job. Working a job is easier than being a trader because when you're like a business owner and when you're a trader, all the decisions, all the pressure's onto you. Versus when you're at a job, you don't have to think. It's comfortable. You know what time you got to be there. You know what time you got to go home. You got a guaranteed paycheck. You go there. You ain't got to think. Most of the time, you get told by a manager or a boss what to do. So it's easy in that sense. But I always hated authority. I always hated being told, kind of what to do. Um, nah, bro. There's nothing to trade on Euro. I'm not setting a limit on any of this. It can easily sweep all that. I want to wait for effort to enter the market. So for me, Nasdaq's my lagger at the moment because Nasdaq's pulled below the 50 and ES hasn't pulled below the 50 yet. But yeah, I mean, so all I'll be doing really now is pinging some alerts on my scanner, and that's it, and wait for this to call me a trade. And then if I get that in my zone, I'll take it. If not, there's nothing else to do. And this is now where like staring too much at the market is causes the problem. Gotta have that patience now. For some nip or genuine soul, it's too early to tell. It's too early to tell. If we see high volume start to come in a reversal, sure. But at this point, it's way too early to tell, bro. But then this is it. Like the worst thing you can do is just stare at the chart. This is where I'd just be going doing anything else but trading. Check NQ on the 1 second, bro. Like, why are you on the 1 second, bro? You got no reason to be on the 1 second, brother. We want to start seeing shorting into the frost. I mean, bro, like you're in New York session, you're not going to see a long drawn out schematic. Just gonna and go. Um, no, you. I mean, what minutes? You, bro, like you go to a sec. You the 1 second. You got to be smoking crack. Now I'm joking. You got to be in the have a 15-second POI to be on a 1 second entry. Yeah, I mean, well, if the scanner calls it at this point and the risk reward's good, I'm just gonna take it. That's it. I mean, I'd only refine it if it wasn't a 1 to 5 to my target. Yeah, we're selling off hard. You like my hat? Oh, thank you, bro. I like it too. My friend opened a shop in Phuket. She's got a shit ton of shops, but it's like a custom hat. It's pretty nice. Thank you. It's got like little you can probably see little shiny pieces on it. They're not real diamonds. Imagine that. That's a fucking flex. 1, 5, and 15 look similar to me. Yeah, but a woman can look like a man, bro. Doesn't mean she's a woman, you know? Or a man can look like a, you know? For me, I just group it in terms of duration. You know, like a 1 second schematic, how long is that going to take? I would say, like, if you had a gun to my head, I would say 1, 3, and 5 would be like the same, and then like the 15, 30, and 45 would be the same. Yeah, you got to check, bro. You got to do your validations. Yeah, we're not seeing a whole lot of much on these, man. And again, this is where you got to wait for that effort, you know? And like, this is now what separates traders because people will look at this and then, let's say it just does that. Oh my God, you're a bad trader. No, I'm a great trader because I said if it comes in and shows me effort, then I'll take it. It come in, but did it show me effort yet? No. And that's what you got to start reward yourself for. You don't reward yourself on the outcome, you reward yourself on your ability to follow your plan. Might get something in here. Might be an OB entry in a minute. But I need volume. There's volume coming on ES. Yeah, why am I gonna be on the 15 second, bro? Like why the hell are you on the 15 second? So NQ to call a bullish one. Where? Is that MNQ? I think where is it? Wait, let me look at this chart. Wait, no. I don't think I'm gonna take that. I don't see enough. We're not really seeing a lot of strength or volume yet. Let me see. What's ES doing? Do I have volume on ES? I had no leader. Not bad though. You can see actually there's volume on ES. This might be worth a small. Let me investigate. That's why I'm doing. I am showing me some strength. I prefer absorption entries. I don't really like OB entries. We need some leader. There's no leader at the moment, so I'm not gonna pull the trigger just yet. If I see ES show a bit of strength, but come on, let's see a little bit of strength. All right. If ES can show a bit of strength, I might take something. Maybe just like an engulfing candle, like a bullish engulfing. What do you want, M and Q? Might not be bad. I think we got a little bit of strength on ES, so it might not be the worst. See what happens. What the risk to reward is. We play something like that. Swing it to the high. Don't want to eight. It's not bad. All right. ES is showing strength. I'm going to take that. See what happens. YM is showing strength too. But it is. Yeah, ES is taken off. So, I mean, I took this. I just wanted to wait for a little bit of strength on ES. And oh, well, I should have shown you, but I got another screen here. And I've got three screens. You can see that ES is showing strength. So ES has already gone break even. So worth reducing risk a little bit. We can still get a small mitigation on something like this. See what happens. If ES keeps showing strength, we've got absorption on ES, so yeah, let's see what happens, boys. Right, what time is it? We should have a 15-minute candle closing soon. So if we get this 15-minute candle closing, this thing is probably good to run to those highs. M3 absorption on ES as well, it's just called. Yeah, the M3 just called on ES as well. So, so anyone enjoying the weather lately? Uh, this is, bro. This is torture for me, bro. I hate staring at the fucking market. I just hate this. Like, I hate staring at it. It's the worst thing you can do. Oh, you had a heat wave? Oh, bro, sorry. There was absorption on ES. The ES had absorption. All right, so there's no reason to really take a loss on this at this point. Now the M5's called an absorption on ES too. Oh yeah, holy boys. Yeah, we should be good. I mean, anything can happen at any point, so that's why we manage risk. Ugh. Bro, this scanner is free money, bro. I'm telling you, lot, man, this shit makes life easier. So ES is already going, showing strength. There's really no reason to take a loss on these. Partial targets. Drag it to the high, bro. Well, we can take some partials now. Just hit TP1. So I just took a small partial now. So now I'm at technically break even on the trade because I just took a partial. So if it comes and takes me out, I can't lose anything. You're mad at the heat wave? You like having heat waves? Bro, we're in the middle of rainy season here, man. So like it's just fucking hammering it down every day. Apart from that one day I posted at the beach. It's one day, bro. One day of sun. I'm turning into fucking Casper the Ghost out here. Um, potentially. I don't really like the. I mean, yes, some yeah. I would say it's an accumulation. Got volume in it. Who do you want? Oh man, and in England you got no AC as well. AC is not default. How's it getting citizenship and visas in Thailand? It's pretty easy, brother. You just pay. Like, to be honest with you, bro. I mean, it depends what you want to do. Like, they can be quite strict. Like, if you do want to come to Thailand, you can just get like a visa on arrival. It's most countries, it's just you just pull up and get it. But like there's if you have like the right connections, you can get like guaranteed entry and all that shit. But most people you just pull up. Sometimes they'll question you like what you doing here, why are you going to be here. Sometimes you got to show like 20,000 baht, which is like 500 British pounds in cash. So like I don't know, like $700, something like that. And that's it. And sometimes like a return flight. They normally only scrutinize people who've like had like a lot of travel history and they're quite dodgy. But it yeah, it's pretty easy, bro. Like, there's so many visas you can get. I actually did a video about it on my YouTube. But like there's so many visas you can get, man. You can get like education visas, which is like you're a student. And they normally last like a year and you like extend it like every 90 days. So like they're normally the one we did before I got like my employment visa and got like my work permit and shit. Like that's like the highest one you can get apart from the elite visa. There's different tiers. It's like the lowest tier is the tourist visa. That's a free visa you get for just pulling up. That used to be 60 days and then you could extend it for another 60 days in the country, but now it's only 30 days. Um, and then you can extend it for another 30 days. And then what some people do is they do border runs. So like they'll, do that 30 days, extend it, get another 30 days, and then like get on a bus quickly to another country, walk through the border, walk back. Like when I don't know if you lot saw me post that like the other few weeks ago, I was on some fucking bus in the middle of the ghetto to do a fucking border run. Um, or like you can just get on a plane and go out. But if you do that a few times, then that's when they start like scrutinizing you, if that makes sense. Like they'll start like questioning you, why are you coming in and out of the country? Um, but then you can get like there's like a DTV visa you can get. That's still a tourist visa. That one you just got to show like 500,000 baht in capital, which is like 15,000 pounds, like $20,000. And that's like a 5-year visa, but it only gives you 180 days at a time, and you have to leave. Or you can get the education visa, which is like you can open bank accounts with the education visa and stuff. That normally starts around like depends on where you go. The place I went to charged 20,000 baht, which was like £500, and then every 90 days £120 for the extension for a year, and you can normally do that up to a few years. Um, and then from there you can do like the work permit and educate like the work permit visas. With the work permits, you can either go around creating your own company, but if you create your own company, you need like a Thai partner, um, and you need like an actual Thai person to own like 51% of the company. You need to register like 4 million in Thai baht, which is like £100,000. You need four Thai start. Like, it's complicated. Or you can get a work permit for a company, like if you get employed, or there's a lot of ways you can go about it. Um, or you can go in and get the elite visa, which is like 20, 30, 40, 50, 100K for different periods of time. Depends on what one you get. Um, so yeah, there's a few options you can go. It's pretty easy, man. Yeah, I would say that the best thing to do is just like go there for a bit and see if you like it. Get the 30-day entry. Don't tell them you're working or anything like that. Just go as like a genuine vacation. And then after that vacation, if you like it, extend it for another 30 days. And then if you still like it like that, just do a quick border run. Do that for another 60 days. And then by then it's already 120 days, secure like a long-term lease, for like a year or something, and then focus on getting like a proper visa, like the DTV, because you might not like it, and figure out where you want to stay, because you might not like the areas you go to, because all the different areas are different, like completely different. Like I'm in Phuket. Phuket's nice. It's fucking the most expensive part of Thailand. It's an island. It's nice. I like it. It's got a good balance of like city and like island vibes. But there's so many places you can go. But yeah. Is it a lot more touristy? It depends on where you go, bro. What you do, you know, like if you go to like obviously the tour, grab the spine. If you go to like the what the fuck? If you go to like the tourist areas, yeah, of course, man. But if you go to like the non-tourist areas, I don't know how to explain it, bro. It depends on what you do, man. And where you're trying to go. Um, oh, I missed a few things. Um, so yeah, it can be pretty easy. I mean, to get citizenship and an actual Thai passport, that's the hardest part, right? To get a Thai passport, you need to have something called a non-B visa, which is a non-tourist visa for like 5 years. And then you have to sing the national anthem fluently in Thai and a bunch of other shit. You know, Thailand's a great country, man. Obviously, you can't have a criminal record, like, and the laws here are mad. So, like, if you defame someone, like let's say you leave a negative review on someone's business, you can go to prison for that. I know someone, I don't know if you guys know the influencer or TikToker Tom Birchie. But you should, if you want to research it, type in Tom Birchie Thailand. He had like a shop here and everything. He was one of my friends, funny enough, but he gave a negative review on someone's restaurant, and it was true. It was completely true. But because he defamed him publicly, he then became like named and shamed it. He then got arrested and they tried giving him like 5 years in prison. Yeah, so you got to be very careful with some of the laws. You can't market execute. Why not? Why not, broski? What stops you from market executing? Like the physical time, or because like sometimes, bro, you have time. Sometimes it might call it like on the 1 minute and then call it again on the 5 minute. Like I think was it NQ one of them called it on like the 5 minute, was it? Yeah, called it on the 5 minute. You can still get in on that technically. You haven't, and your entry doesn't have to be super precise, but obviously I'd always go for the optimal one. No, no, no. Like in Thailand, like bro, like if you got a record in England, they're not gonna check. Like if you want to get like a fucking like for me getting my pilot's license, and they're gonna do a background check and all that. But if you want to like just get a long-term visa here, bro, no, 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 they're not gonna check any of that unless you're on fucking Interpol or like you're a wanted criminal, bro. Then they're gonna come get your ass. But like if you've just done some shit in the past, bro, like, it's normally fine. They're not gonna check. I don't think. Oh, I don't know what it's for, bro. I don't know what happened with you, but unless you're a murderer, I hope you're not, mate. But I generally don't know all the laws, but I just know it's pretty easy. Like it's from what I've like seen, you just and experience, you normally just sort of it's kind of just pay, to be honest with you, bro. If you qualify for it, and then like you can go through like an agent, and they can help you do it. And normally you can just sort of pay, and it's pretty easy at that point. High time frame Ryukyu was this one. When will you go back to Indonesia? I'm not entirely sure. Normally I go with my girl, bro. My wife's Indonesian, but because I'm going to the States next month. Um, so not yeah, I'm going to the States next month, so she's going back then. So I'm not sure when I'd go. But yeah, they're definitely cracking down on border runs. Yeah, for sure, bro. Yeah, I mean, the cost of living here can be cheap. It really can, or it can be expensive. Like, bro, there's been months, like, I've literally spent 40, 50 grand in a month here. Like, bro, don't think it's cheap. Well, I think one of my most expensive months, it was in Bali, and I spent like 120 grand in a month. And that partly because I got arrested. But, like, it's not as cheap as everyone thinks, like you can go for dinner and easily like it depends where you go, right? If you go to like the high end spots, it is London prices or more, right? Like for example, if you want to buy alcohol, like a bottle of wine, like again, I'm not promoting drinking, but just for example, right? let's say you want to buy a bottle of wine. In England, you go to the shop, like let's go to the shop. You want a bottle of wine from the shop, what, like £10, £20, you want to get some premium wine, or like, okay, let's say like a normal standard bottle of wine, maybe like 10, £20, for example. Or like a bottle of vodka, like I don't know, like Ciroc, £30, right? Brother, you want to go to the shop? You're looking at 60, 70 from the shop for the import tax. You want to buy a whip? All of my cars had a 200% import tax because they're one of them's German and one of them's American. So they had a 200% import tax. One of my friends, like he's like a multi, like I think he's a billionaire out here. He owns hotels and shit. Like he's got fucking all the fucking shit you can think of, bro. Like, the Lambos, all that shit. Bro, like a Lambo here costs almost $1 million for a Lambo. Bro, a Urus in England's like 120K. A Urus here is like 1 million basically because the import tax. So it really depends on how you want to live, bro. Like, if now, saying that, if we want to go to the local spots, right? Like let's say we go with some of my Thai friends, right? And we want to, like, for example, there's two prices. Like, because I've got the work, like we went to the circus the other day, right? I mean, that's still a tourist shit. But because I've got the employment visa and I'm a resident here, I show them that and I get cheaper prices on my stuff. If we go to a national park, you lot will pay the expensive price. I'll get the cheap price, right? Because I'm almost Thai. But like the point is, there's also prices like that. But if you go to like a local restaurant, obviously it's gonna be quite oily a little bit, maybe it might be a little bit dirty. But because obviously it's more local, the health standards are not the same as some of the crazy ones. Still delicious food, but that will be, yeah, you can probably grab a plate for like chicken and rice for like less than a pound. Like easy. You get like 50p a pound. You could do that. But again, you want to go to a nice steakhouse, right? Obviously your bill is going to rack up. So you do got to live smart out here. Like for no, so we know, like I like to mix it. Like sometimes I like to go to like the nicer, higher end places, and then sometimes where I'll be in the hood and just being ghetto with it. But I think you just got to have that balance. So in terms of like how much you want to live, it really depends, bro. Like again, you can get like a real sort of basic one bedroom apartment, pretty basic, kind of lower quality for like £100 a month. You know, probably some roaches and shit. But or you can go and get a fucking mega mansion that literally costs 10 grand a night. Right? So it really ranges, bro, on what you want to do here. But like in saying that, like it can be quite affordable. Like for example, a 7-Eleven worker, they might make, three, four, £500 a month. So could you live like a local? Now that would mean no aircon, shit like that. So you could live quite cheap if you wanted to. Been following your stuff since I appreciate you, man. Quick question. If you missed the initial entry, would you consider re-entering? No. I don't re-entry. I mean, if like the scanner calls another entry on like the higher time frame, because there's always two entries. You've got your optimal entry and then the late entries. Um, I mean, you kind of can. Obviously, it just decreases the probability of it because obviously on a trade like this, I already managed to go break even and pay myself the risk on this trade. So if it does lose it, like I'm not gonna lose any money if that makes sense. Um, I don't really like to. I mean, like in terms of re-entries, so like what you could do is like I don't know if you use our scanner, but like if you use the scanner, so like there was a trade on like one on Euro USD last week we took and it called like a trade here. It did this, did this. The scanner then called another trade here, and that was the one I managed to get in. Or sometimes you can play like the reaccum. So like let's say you have to go to a lower time frame and starts reaccuming. But yeah, and like if you do miss the trade, don't always think it's a bad thing because even if you spot the trade and you're not in it, that's still a good thing, and that still means your eyes getting better. Obviously, you have to make sure the trade's valid to begin with, but yeah. People used to do that in Japan and they cracked down on the like the tourist visas and all the yeah, man, going Korea one day and coming back. Yeah, like if you want to live here long term, just get the visas. I think it's because the problem is now in Thailand that you have what we call low quality tourists. Then you have like the actual expats and the nomads. So like someone like me, I guess I'm classed as an expat because I have all the proper visas, I have all the proper paperwork, and my income isn't coming necessarily from like I'm not working like physically, if that makes sense. Like it's all online, right? So that's the people they want. They want like people who are a bit more high quality. That's why like some of the visas now you have to show like certain amounts of money. Like if you want a DTV visa, which is like a visa you can just come and go work online, you got to show I think it's like 15 or 20K in savings. But the problem is like there's these low quality tourists that are just coming here, they got no fucking money, and they're just trying to border run and just be cheap as they can, stealing, causing problems. The nice things, bro's married. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ladies here, man. There's a lot. Can I speak Thai? Nid noi, a little bit. Yeah, bro, you can actually get a long-term prison sentence for defamation. Where in the States we could link up. So I'm gonna be flying into New York, and then I think I'm not sure if I'm doing a few nights there. I need to speak to my group. I think we're driving to Pennsylvania, and then doing a few nights in New York, and I'm gonna go Texas to go meet the fellow broker owners and the developer. Oh yeah, bro. I mean, 120K was Highbury. So I've been, let me think, I think I've taken out this trade at break even. Hey, is what is. Can't win every trade, man. So at this point, I kind of doubt we're going to see any buys today on this. We can see it's still a chance we can get another one. If we get another signal here, I'll take another one. But this is the reality. So for me on the day, I'm pretty much. I mean, well, my account is in like $20 profit. Just from the break even. It doesn't really count. But yeah, so today is basically a break even day, and that's just the reality of trading, man. Some days you're gonna hit lions, some days you're not. Some days you're gonna hit break even. Still managed to go for a small little 1 to 2 break even, and obviously reverse. So yeah, just the reality of it. So I think at this point, boys, I think we're gonna get a deeper sell off on these, unless we're gonna get a giant shakeout. But yeah, I mean, a lot of volume in that high. But yeah, I mean, this is the reality of it, boys. Like you take a trade. This is literally identical to the trades we took. I showed you at the start of the call. So reality of it. Yes, is still in the POI. That's why I'm doing. It did close above that high. It's still a small chance. I think you could be given a bigger shakeout. We'll see what YM wants to do. If YM wants to show strength from here and ES, we still could probably play sync up on NQ. Oh, you can be in Texas too? You die? No, a Spurs jersey? I don't even know what that is. So when it boosts, how do you consider if you look at distros? They break my line in the sand. So obviously ES and NQ, ES is still in the POIs. They haven't actually broke the line in the sand. I mean, at this point, I'm kind of really doubting these are going to hold because we had a shit ton of effort come in and the effort just flopped. I don't like to really change my bias a lot on the day. Like if I'm bullish, I like to stick to being bullish and then just come back another day. I don't, I'm not going to be buy now and then you see me selling in like 10 minutes. Like I'll just take it on the chin. All right, if I'm wrong today, okay, I'm wrong. Take a losing day or break even day, no problem. But I stay solid on my bias until the next day. Because how many times, like I remember in my early career, I would take a trade, let's say break even or lose or whatever, and then I'll be like, oh my God, let me start selling. And 4 hours later, whoop. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, but like I would, in this case, I'm still looking at ES. It's still in here. Probably gonna crack soon at this point. Um, yeah, NQ's just selling off, but I'll probably just sit out and just come back tomorrow. For me, like on a day like this is a day where I'll probably go to sleep quite early. Take my magnesium supplements, my zinc supplements, and wake up early tomorrow. Versus last week, because I was in trades, I was going to bed quite late, like 1, 2, 3 a.m. Because obviously I was, want to make sure I can manage my trades. But um, yeah. Oh, the basketball. Oh shit. So yeah, I mean, at this point, like I'm not really going to change my bias. I'm not just going to start shorting straight away. I mean, it's quite likely. Well, at this point, if we either see a lot of volume come in and start reaccumulating, potentially, or maybe get a lunchtime reversal, or if we just end up cracking this, getting that redistro, then we'll sort of see what inflation comes out as tomorrow, and then maybe play another continuation down. But I don't like flipping my bias on the day. So, so in terms of where we are today, we're at one break even. And this is where now you got to be indifferent because, like, I used to get so annoyed. Oh my God, why did it not work? I followed my rules. And, there's no guarantee that the trade's going to win. But again, like it's all about your expectation. Because when you go to the market, if you take a trade and you're like, oh, this has to win, that's when you start getting fucked up. But if you're indifferent, you manage your risk. In this case, we managed to break ourselves even. When it hit TP1, I managed to take some profit, which was just my initial risk. So yeah, the trades break even. So for example, let's say you risk $100, comes up here. Why is my pen not working? But you can close that initial risk. Now you also had the opportunity to reduce your risk as well. Like for example, when it came into here and started, entering this bullish market cycle, you could have put your stops even here to reduce the risk further. But yeah, so I think I'm pretty much done for the day now. There's not much I'm gonna do unless dollar's gonna show. Oh, hello. Maybe dollar's gonna show strength. If dollar shows strength, we might be able to play some redistros down on euro. But it's in the middle of nowhere, man. That's the only problem with this. We'll see if we get any redistros. So when we go back and watch these recordings, the backtest entries, do we assess the trade based off the three models or do we assess it based off the scanner? It depends what you're doing, bro. It depends what plan you're doing. You can do it both. I mean, technically there's four models now. All right. Yeah, technically now there's a fourth, which is now using our scanner as a model. Um, so it depends if you're using that comes down to you, right? Are you using the scanner or not? I would say if you're not using it, oh, you're playing yourself. But if you're not using it, then you're just gonna have to do it off your trading plan. So that like that's what you're putting it against, what your trading plan is. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Yeah, there's not really much I think there is today. Today might be an early night, I think. Unless Euro wants to show redistros. But there's no weakness on GU either. So I think I'm pretty much done with indices today. Either this is going to be setting up for that redistro. So if we start seeing like later on, maybe during lunchtime, New York time, we start seeing it reaccumulate and enter in a bullish market cycle with this volume, maybe we can get some small buys again later. But I think if I'm going to really short this, I'd need to confirm redistros. I'm not too bothered about taking anything else today. Um, we're about to have our record break. What are we on? How many hours are we on? Oh, 3 hours, eh? Bro, like, why do you want to sell that, man? I mean, zoom out, brother. We're bullish, man. Why are you trying to short that? What is your distribution done? You know, I'll be looking for that. Yeah. And what did your distro do? I don't want to short this. I'm bullish. I'd rather wait for the reaccum or come into demand. But yeah, so like if I'm gonna play any other trades based on the scanner on this, like I think it just called one on the M1. I'm not gonna take this. I'm not taking these because again, market cycle. I'm not in a POI, so I'm not gonna take this trade. The only thing that would really get me in any other trades on NQ is if we start accumulating off this volume and then start showing reaccums and then we come into a reaccum and then the scanner calls something here or gives a mitigation, then I'll walk it up. But at this point, that's all I'd really see. So I'm probably not going to check indices. What's the time? Probably for another at least 40 minutes, another hour, I give it. Yeah, probably another 30. Well, I mean, yeah, probably another 30, 40 minutes, hour. I'm not bothered about really checking this. If euro wants to sell off and pound gives more weakness and dollar shows strength, maybe, but again, it is pre-inflation, so we might not see a lot of stuff. I mean, like, bro, you're looking at a 2 minute distro and a 2 minute redistribution. So what have they done? Like, what did they do? Like let's go through the laws of Wyckoff. Cause and effect. What have your sellers achieved? Let's have a look. What did your sellers do, bro? And what have the sellers done all year? Sellers try to come in. What do they do? Nothing. Sellers try to come in. What do they do? Nothing. So yeah, man, I've got no reason to try and short against that. Is this not a POI? No, you just broke your POI, bro. That was our POI. I mean, it could be a sweep for another giant reaccum. It's a possibility, you know. And it could be a bigger manipulation, but I'm not going to catch a falling knife at this point. I think we've got a lot of volume up here too. Yeah, there's a lot. Like, here, like this was the most volume in this area. We couldn't even respect that point of control. And from that prior day as well. That's where all the orders were sitting. Why is my pen not working? Does that run out of ink or something, bro? Like, what is going on? I'm like spam clicking this shit. It's not working. What the fuck? Oh, I think I broke my mouse. Oh, no, there we go. All right. I think the Zoom pen ran out of ink. What's going on? I can't handle this long of a stream. Um, but yeah, man. I don't see much yet. Really broke. I mean, we could be a giant liquidity sweep, but like I mentioned, if I'm going to do anything, I would need to see these things enter a bullish market cycle. Bro, what is going on with this pen? See, this pen works. Bro, what is going on? If we had like some sort of reaccue, maybe, but I mean. My thing is like if they're bullish, why would they take out that demand? Maybe they wanted to create more liquidity and give a bigger shakeout, but that's quite early. I'm not too worried. I think YM is still in there. But yeah, we'll see if we get that market cycle that follows through like that. And yes, it is. Yeah, I think we might call it a day soon, unless anyone's got any other questions. There's volume. We'll see. I mean, again, like I mentioned, if we do see this thing enter that little bullish market cycle and start doing this, then yeah, I think the scanner's calling something down here. It's calling absorption, but like it broke my POI, so you got to drive. Yeah, bro, take care. You've been a long time. Not expecting ES. I mean, I don't expect anything, brother. I just create if-then scenarios. I mean, right now ES is starting to show strength on the lower time frame, but it's not what I think. It's what is my trading plan that can be repeated, you know? Like, for example, okay, so all of the trades we went through at the start of the call, right? We all noticed it was the same thing, right? It was follow the market cycle, wait for the market. Oh God, this Zoom pen is doing my head in, bruv. Oh God, right? Like we had a market cycle, we came back down, right? We either had a micro accum or reaccum, or the scanner called something in that area and we took it as a repeatable entry, you know? So it's the same thing every time. For me, like there's nothing repeatable about just trying to buy down here. Like what there's nothing repeatable. I just broke my POI. What makes this repeatable is all right, let's say this 15-minute candle closes extremely bullish. Let's say the 1 hour shows a massive pin bar, right? And then let's say lower time frame starts going into reaccums, right? And then we come into the reaccum as a POI, and then we call a signal in here. Sure, I'll take that. But if I'm not doing that repeatable process, then there's nothing I'm going to take. You know? So everything comes down to can my trade be repeated? Can my trade be repeated? That's the most important thing. Can it be repeated? Can it be repeated? It's not about if we win or lose, it's about can it be repeated? So yeah, we'll see. I'm not gonna take these trades. Honestly, bro, these days I've just been taking everything off the scanner, bro. To be honest with you. To be honest, man. Since I got hold of it and since I've been able to use it, it's just made my life a million times easier. That notification is my scanner, bro. So like if he wasn't here when we explained it, so obviously there's three laws of Wyckoff, right? The scanner shows me when there's a lot of effort entering the market. So like, on a trade, like we took on ES on when was it? Like back here, for example, I think it was on the 1 minute. And these are what notifications. It spits out a shit ton of them, bro. It's not everyone's gonna fucking, win, but that's why you gotta have logic with it. So like for example here, right? It called a lot of effort coming into the market, my entry, stop losses, TPs, and I can just come in, refine it, and apply my plan to it, and like Okay, you can watch the recording when it goes up because we spent a lot of time, but then I can then play my entry off it. Yeah, if you wanna, I would say get the free trial first, bro. Play around with it. Don't just buy it straight away. Play around with it for a week if you like it, and you've watched the trainings. I'm gonna put a course on there soon. Um, then give it a go. But for me, it just makes my life easier if you can apply logic with it. Like for example, like that's a setup I'm gonna take, right? It's in alignment with my market cycle, showing reaccums versus I don't know, like something like here, right? It's calling a buy during Asia session. I'm not going to take that. Or even like in here, I'm not going to really take this either because there's no sign of strength for my accumulation. So I need like the logic behind it. Otherwise, I'm just not gonna take it. Cool. But yeah, there's nothing really else to do. If we see these things enter that bullish market cycle and these yeah, it's a little bit hard to say what's going to happen now. I mean, we seen a 50-minute candle close quite bullish. If we didn't see another 15-minute show like a bullish engulfing with this volume, I think it might be a higher probability that we could play those reaccums. So, sort of thing to do now is, wait for the next 15-minute candle closure and see what that 50-minute candle closure plays out as. If that no alarms is all based on time at this point, because right, we've already broke the POI, so there's nowhere to have an alert at this point. So look at we just closed a 50-minute candle, and the 50-minute candle showing you this pin bar, right? So and the volume. So if the next 50 minutes shows bullish engulfing, right, on a lower time frame, that's an accumulation, right? Drop, base, rally with my amazing drawing. So that's the thing. I'll check the next 50-minute candle close. Because if the next 50-minute candle closes like that, yeah, there's nothing you're gonna be able to take. Um, but if the next 15-minute candle closes nice and bullish, then I would start going down to those lower time frames and then start looking for, some sort of reaccum in the blue box. But there's not too much strength coming in on this. Just yeah. Cool. All right, guys, I'm going to run. We've been here for 3 hours and 50 minutes. Obviously, went for a lot of breakdowns. We spoke about what we're going to do for the week in terms of economics of inflation, backtest all the setups. Um, even the one from today, backtest it. Back because you don't just backtest the entry, you backtest the management. Comes up, hits our target. How could you have managed that trade? You know, when did she have opportunity to go break even? These are things you got to start looking for when you're back testing. Like for example, go away. Like let's say, it called the entry somewhere here, it called it, right? Stop loss here. All right, cool, goes into profit, comes back, starts mitigating, entering a market cycle. You can start moving your stop loss, you can start taking partials, So you can also back test the um the management behind it. So yeah. I'm not sure if Nathan's doing his call tomorrow, because I think he's traveling, but he'll update you lot if he is. If not, I'll obviously see you guys on Thursday, and we'll sort of discuss what happened with inflation. And I think we've got PPI coming out on our call on Thursday as well, so that'll be good to look into. So yeah, I'll see you lot on Thursday, same time as today, and then we'll keep an eye on what's going to happen with these. Again, don't hold your breath. It's probably not too much, just really going to go down from these. Yeah, cool. Unless there's any last minute questions, we'll call it a day. Yeah, might end up going to sleep soon. Fall asleep. Otherwise, I'll drop recording in the chats and I'll catch you.